January meeting of the Evanston Preservation Commission. In order to protect the fabric of our architectural heritage, the Preservation Commission reviews projects relating to structures deemed to be contributing to historic districts, as well as proposed new construction within historic districts and proposed demolition of contributing structures within historic districts. The Preservation Ordinance empowers this body to safeguard our city's historic and cultural heritage and to oversee and administer our community's historic preservation program. And the commission is tasked with identifying and preserving historic, cultural, and architectural resources. During our monthly public meetings, we encourage public participation, afford due process through public hearings on proposed landmark designations, as well as reviewing and making determination on applications for certificates of appropriateness. And so we'll start with public comment. Is anyone here tonight here for okay? And do you need to share any public comment to share with us?
Did everyone get a chance to read it?
You might have to talk louder because we can't.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. I was just asking, we had public comment, and did everyone on the commission have a chance to review the letters sent to us? Okay.
Okay.
And then we can now move to the continuation of...
So are you talking about the one that just came in? Is that for?
Yes.
Oh, I mean, I don't know if everyone who would be in the audience would have had a chance to read it. You know, if we did, I don't know. I'd like to hear it read into the record.
Okay.
That's fine. We're not recording it. There's no record.
Oh,
I can-
for the benefit.
It'll be the minutes will be there.
Sure.
I can pull it up unless you have
I have it.
Okay.
Here we do this. Fireside chat. We received an email from Carl Smith, the Franklin Bliss Snyder Professor of American Studies and English and Professor of History Emeritus from Northwestern, and this is what he wrote. I now spend the winter months away from the Chicago area, and I regret I can't speak tonight in person regarding Daniel H. Burnham's tea house. But I am familiar with the tea house from researching and writing my book, The Plan of Chicago, Daniel Burnham and the Making of the American City, which was published by the University of Chicago Press in 2006, and 3 years later was the Chicago Public Library's fall 2009 selection in its One Book, One Chicago program. Burnham built the tea house on its current site at the southeastern end of the enormous rectangular property he owned, which his son sold in the 1930s and now has close to 20 houses. Near the wall, he also built, which is also still there. As I recall, he built up the land at the east end of the property so that there was a view of the lake. If I were to speak, I would strongly advocate the preservation of the tea house as the last direct link to a place where Burnham lived. He and John Welborn Root designed other buildings that still stand, as you know, including a frame house to the north of his property. But this is the only one in which he, in any sense, lived. He loved Evanston, from which he commuted into the city from the time he moved there in the 1880s until his death in 1912. What I cannot say is that I am familiar with the exact design of the original structure, since I have never seen it over the wall or seen any plans until now. As I recall, there is a more modern house to the north, but if the current structure is the one that Burnham designed and used, it is a one-of-a-kind building by a world-famous and historically significant architect and city planner who closely identified with Evanston. In my opinion, it is the kind of thing Evanston, of which I was a proud resident for over 30 years, should honor and preserve as responsibility to its present and future, as well as its past. Respectfully, Carl Smith.
Thanks, Carl.
And there was also the letter from Jack Weiss, but that's included in the packet.
Are you going to read Jack's letter?
Well, that was included in the
Is Jack still here?
the packet. Unless,
I missed it. Sorry.
would you want to see it?
Yeah.
Would you like me to read it?
No, I just
Okay.
He was here. Yeah, he's right there.
Let's see, how do I get to it?
Jack can read it.
Jack, do you want to read it, or do you want me?
You do.
I think it's worth reading.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Alrighty.
Sorry about that, Carl.
No, it's fine. Commissioners, I write this letter in support of demolition of the Burnham Design Shelter House at 111 Burnham Place in Evanston. My major concern is about the context. Nothing remains of the original Burnham house on the site, nor the wooded pathway leading to the shelter house. Nothing remains of the pergola and broad steps and terrace on the eastern side end of the site. Further, the entire site is hidden from public view by the high concrete wall. From an experiential viewpoint, nothing remains of the walk through the woods to the shelter house or the bucolic view to the north. My second concern is about compromise. The shelter house is no longer freestanding as originally designed, but clumsily attached to a modest two-story home. The home itself is now listed as contributing simply because of the physical connection to the shelter house. Since its 1948 attachment to the house, the shelter house no longer has the ceramic tile roof that gave it some architectural distinction. And from a functional view, a fireplace, electrical service, and baseboard heating have been added. Evanston has many other Burnham design landmark structures that deserve protection as are more significant and can easily be viewed by the public. Noyes Street School, First Presbyterian Church, 318 to 320 Dempster, and Miller School come to mind. Because it is on private property, the public has no access to view or experience to the shelter house. While it is regretful that his shelter house would be demolished, in my mind, it can never be saved unless physically separated from the existing home, restored and relocated on the site. Even then, who would bear the cost of such an effort for a structure that would still be on private property and remain unseen by the public? Lastly, I'm reviewing the standards for demolition. It appears that the majority of standards for demolition are fully met. Sincerely, Jack Weiss, 2025 Cultural Ambassador.
Know in a documented way what the original tea house looked like. Because I didn't understand anything.
Yeah, it's they'll show it too, but here, I can pull it up.
All right. So, are they giving their presentation?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you all can give your presentation now. There's a podium up there.
I don't have a presentation, but Dan will make the presentation, but I got a couple of words. And first of all, I'd like to thank all the commissioners for the visit to the site. And some of you came more than once. And we appreciate very much your availability and you coming out this nice cold Evanston evening. And since our December 15th meeting, I had time to reflect. And I've seen the shelter many, many times in details. And I listened to your concerns during the last meeting and your comments and concerns during the visit that you made on December 15th. And some of you also last week. And I looked very carefully as I went to make visits at the east wall, at the south wall, at the non-existing west wall, and on the northern wall, and we agreed and seen all of them have been compromised and some of them very severely. We took your suggestions and requests, and we cut into the ceiling to see what's there. We cut into the floor to see what's there. And also we engaged Adams House from Indiana to come and give us an assessment on the movability of the structure. And they came and they spent about 2 hours analyzing that. We haven't received the final quote from them, but they gave us an estimate of what they thought. And I think I put it in the letter that I sent to you, that I wrote last week. I felt that I had to update you on what's going on. So all this stuff here, and especially, the digging on the floor and cutting up at the ceiling convinced me more than before that what is there today is not the shelter that Burnham knew. It is not intact, it is not livable, and for years it was basically unused precisely because it did not serve any human use. During my many visits to the shelter, I tried to imagine, how it could fit into the structure, as we discussed much last time. I did not see a possible fit. Just think of the flooring. It's 20 inches with sand and stumps and no insulation, and the ceiling is the same, absolutely no insulation. I do not see a possibility. It would not have, if you do it, you would have to be completely demolished, taken down, which really really kills, the purpose of preservation. So I took the time, since I'm retired and I had a month in between these two meetings, to look at Burnham Plan of Chicago that was published in 1909. It was 268 pages. I did not read all of them, but a lot of them. It makes very interesting reading, and I have a better appreciation for planning and for architecture and from Burnham. I quote Burnham, page 37 of this report, that says, "A city, a neighborhood, should be so planned that its people may live in reasonable comfort, convenience, and beauty." As I say, page 37. Burnham also believed deeply in legacy, and for him, it was not preserve it at all costs. It was about ensuring that land continues to serve the living. Honoring Burnham here does not mean preserving a structure that no longer reflects his time, his works, his values, or the context in which it was built. It means doing what he constantly argues city must do. Act deliberately, responsibly, and with an eye toward the future. So 40 years, this shelter has really not been used, as I was told by the previous owner, Michael Place, who is the son of the Rosetta Burnham, who has lived there for 50 years. He said they could not use that stuff in the winter nor in the summer, and in the winter like a day today because of the cold that it was. So it was a burden to the people who lived there, the shelter. It has not sheltered life. It has not contributed to the daily rhythm of the family, nor the neighborhood, and not even from far away. Its location on a uniquely elevated lot of private property has no public access, and what is partially visible, which is the east and the south facades, and really forever changed from what they were, completely changed. So you will hear from Dan that what is being proposed in this place is a careful modern intervention that respects its context, that neighbors support and want and welcome, and that has been shaped by the realities of how people live today, not back in 1909. It's architecture that does not pretend to be something that is not, but it takes its surrounding, especially with the lake exposure, seriously, and adds to the environment and the neighborhood. So I'm looking forward to the details and explanation I brought forward by Dan, and I thank you for allowing us your attention. Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you all for, again, your time this evening. As Paulo has expressed, we did take a month for pause, for reflection, and for due diligence in terms of looking at what actually is in place and its history. This evening, we will briefly show you the slides that we showed last month, but in better pairing, we believe, and then also expose really what we found, what we presume to have been the original intent of this pavilion, and to paint the argument of why we feel that it's not the best envisionment at this point of the Burnham vision. Obviously, the Burnham vision is very different from what the existing conditions are, and it's really a question of the integrity of that vision and what the integrity would remain if one was to somehow maintain the structure. So 111 Burnham, and again, for those that I believe most of you were at the original presentation, so I don't want to belabor or spend time in these images, but to just introduce again Paolo and Diane, appreciation of their architectural intent, their current existing house in Evanston, the work of Wheeler Kearns, which appreciates and has worked with significant landmark buildings within Chicago and the environs, and landmark districts. And so we don't take the charge of removing a structure lightly, and we look at things objectively and try to understand what is left of the value of what we are contending with. And certainly for the Krause Music Store, the Pond and Pond building in Astor, those were significant buildings that were intact in terms of their original fabric, and we carefully worked with the state and so forth within the guidelines. In this case, we find that there is a loss of integrity from 1938 that we need to kind of retrace. The subject property is along the lake. The felons live over here on the back 40, if you will. They want to move up to the front. We won't go into all of that minutia, but essentially this was the site for the Burnham house on the left, and the adjacent site, this was a Sanborn map of 1899. Nothing existed then. I'm just going to move out here for a moment. So in 1899, there was nothing here. And then somewhere around 1908 or 1910, these slides are a little bit early, but you'll see that the concrete wall extended all the way to where Sheridan was. And the shelter house was here. It was never used as a domestic dwelling. It was a shelter house, which was a freestanding pavilion that was, as mentioned, was on a raised plane so that this was filled. And you can see that Lake Michigan was literally across the bridge, or literally across the wall. That was the vision, as you'll see in the original photographs. And so this is what Daniel Burnham had at one point. Let's see. Okay, so we have record, thankfully, from the History Center at Evanston that had pulled together the building permits for the site, and you will read that none of these were signed by Daniel Burnham. It was said that Daniel Burnham was the architect, but they were not signed. They were signed by the builder, and they also noted that there was no concrete and no masonry as part of the construction. And so that led us to reading more carefully and saying that there's a whole bunch of plaster being used. And so that this is a frame structure that was plastered or stucco. So this is, again, the site. Boy, I'm going to move this around because my eyes are glancing off of light through here. So this was the Daniel Burnham residence that was destroyed. There was also a house at this point, a shelter, and then there was the frame shed. And the Sanborn maps called this a shed that was cemented. And so that they understood that it was a shed. It was not a house, and it was not ever known in terms of its documentation as a tea house. In 1938, as mentioned, the family divided. They sold and subdivided this portion of the property. You can see that the Daniel Burnham house was removed, and the concrete wall, as you'll see, is somewhat partially intact, but these parcels were divided off, and then there were two unique parcels to the east. We have also documented that in 1945, the survey that was commissioned prior to the construction of the house in 1948 showed that the concrete wall was cut back to this location through here, so it's basically quite a distance. The excavation of the berm and so forth was somewhat intact through here, but mind you that there is also an adjacent property directly to the north. And you will see in this survey that it's a rectangular volume. You will see in the current survey that actually shows that there was a fireplace that was added at the point when this building was built. And so that was interesting for us to confirm our findings. So in 1950, the Sanborn map shows the addition of the L-shaped frame and masonry building that abutted and interacted with this structure. And you will see that in 1950, the structure to the north had not been constructed as yet. And so that shelter, and presumably, the individuals that had commissioned this structure would have assumed that they would have had this breadth of vista to the north and to the east, which again changed very quickly. This is the house directly to the north that was constructed, so that our property is down in this location. And there was, again, the concrete wall was cut back, a drive was constructed, and then a one-story house of masonry kind of sat very proximate to the southern property line that we had. These are simply images of surrounding properties. These are adjacent to the building. These are within the district. These are just mind you for reference for projects that have a more contemporary feel. There is the technical building, which is also on the Burnham estate, which is landmarked. It's the only building that was landmarked within this entire area. And it's also interesting to note that the majority of the houses, or the house that we're looking at, was determined to be contributing not for the first two readings, but for the last reading it was mentioned that it's contributing, with no mention that Burnham was involved. And that was uncovered just recently. Okay, so we have had the property survey, topographic survey. This is the listing for the residents that the felons purchased. And then these are the photographs of the existing context, which, as you can see, is very dominantly, conveying the importance of that concrete wall that spanned from Burnham Place all the way to Dempster, and then extended at one point fairly deep to the west. Views from across the way from the pedestrian path, and then the existing pathway and the sidewalks as you walk around the site. And you can see that it's very hard to kind of point out where the actual structure of the shelter house would be actually seen within these views. Now we get onto the property, you can see that the structure and the types of openings, the double hung windows, and so forth, and the kind of the picture window, the double hungs and so forth, which were added to this the shelter house, were different. We won't dwell on these because we'll get into that in a little bit more detail, but this just gives you an example of what we have today. You will notice that there is a concrete pad that runs all the way around the perimeter, the downspouts, the gutters, and the lack of the tile roof that was once there. Window opening, we'll get into that. I think one of the important things is the interventions that took place within the connection between the 1948 building and the shelter house. We'll get into that in more detail, but you can see here that because of height dimension that we needed for, or they needed for garages and so forth. There were several steps that went down to this existing structure that was literally at grade. So this is really what the Burnham vision had been. And if we extended this slide even further, you would see that there would have been walls that would extend, woods that you would traverse, you'd go up wide steps, and you get to a large plaza. A actual, kind of terrace, a grand terrace, overlooking the lake with a single room shelter house, quote unquote. Now we fast forward to 1939, and the walls have been trimmed back, the vista has been diminished and contained. It has been modified in terms of all the facades that we'll be able to explain in more graphic terms. So we did explore the ceiling and the floor, and that proved to us of how this building actually has changed over time. And so if we look at 1909, our contention is as Paulo had mentioned, that this most probably was a wood frame structure with a wood floor, with a single door, 2 north windows, which obviously are there from our from the photography, a window here, and presumably there was a balance of windows from side to side. And then, as this building extended in 1948, this wall was opened up, this fireplace was added, utilities which did not exist in 1909. There was no electricity in the permit, there was no water for making tea. You could port it up and so forth, but it was literally more of a pavilion that is more complementary as a backdrop to the broad terrace that we had. We had low vents through these windows that we'll look at that probably gave the ventilation for the structure, and those vents probably were fairly articulated versus the ones that exist. So from the analysis of our of Paulo's, Sawzall and so forth, we understood that this building is actually wood frame, bearing on wood structure that runs east-west on dirt, which is like from any building code currently, that would be a it's non-negotiable. So this was wood. Our presumption, which we don't know currently, we can't say for sure, but if there was no concrete, if there was no brick, it very well may have been a wood structure that this building was set upon. And you will see photographs that show that this building probably was built fairly quickly, because you can still see the stumps and tree limbs and so forth that were left as they built the structure over it. Wood decking running across those joists. And then you will see that there are several trusses that have no ridge beam that run, and they span from north to south. Originally, this building did have a very striking terracotta tile roof that was set up on an armature to allow venting and any water to vent out without any E-vents through this structure. We have air vents here that would allow the ventilation of not only the building but also the crawl space, which now is captured so that these vents currently are being used for the venting of the damp of the lower level out through the exterior wall. So this is kind of what the section we presume was in 1909. The window openings that go from here to where the height of the door was, as you will see, were opaque to a clear story or transom level, so that the apertures were really quite small. And then there was sheathing and then plaster and stucco on the exterior. And so really this is it's an exterior backdrop to allow a sense of circumstance for the broad plaza. The building this is probably 8 inches or so of framing with tile. then a capstone, and then there's some ornamentation that was originally to the building but has now been lost in the addition of the building. We had wondered about whether this had actually canted down, and we think that actually this is actually intact, but that this is then lifted up to be more prominent. So then we move to what happens in 1948, and the owners say, gee whiz, there's space here, how can we best utilize this? And so they put 1.5 inches of concrete topping and a linoleum floor. At that point, our presumption is that they did build a masonry fireplace to the south facade with a chimney that extended up. They removed the complete tile, and that might have been weight on the wood foundations. We don't know. Again, I'm not saying we know that, but that's a lot of weight up on a wood frame building. And then there were roof vents that were cut in and asphalt. And so everything kind of shrunk down, dropped down. There was no drainage, there was no gutters and downspouts. And so all of the water dripped to natural grade. There was no concrete that had been installed at that point. And at this point, we have a gutter, and then we have downspouts, but there is no roof ventilation, so that's why the roof vents that are prefabricated metal are kind of punched in. Plaster was installed. You will see that new framing was framed across the trusses to allow for a plaster ceiling to make a habitable living room, let's say. And then this is just open construction. So again, completely unfinished on the interior is a presumption. And then in 1948, it was then modified with larger window openings, as you'll see, that are existent today. Okay, so this is below grade, taking photographs of it. You will see that there are stumps, branches that are just lifted through there, the wood timber that is through the middle that is resting again on grade. And again, what the condition of that would be is open for discussion. There was bridging, and then there's probably 1-by or 2-by floor framing running across. As we move up through into the attic, you will see that these are the trusses that go up with there's no ridge beam running across here. There is a tie rod running horizontally, and what our presumption is that there's metal tie rods here, and because of the humidity within that space and not wanting it to condense, they wrapped this with insulation, and so that you didn't get any water going through the plaster. You can see here that there is new framing, fresh framing that is a different coloration than any of the other framing of the building, which was then installed in between to be able to kind of make a surface for that ceiling to take place. And you will also see that there is some construction of the fireplace in brick and concrete, and the recutting of some of the openings through to get the roof ventilation. So things were done. Things were done. It was not seen as a pretty thing. So let's get back to the Burnham vision. There's no question that any architect, anyone in this room says, hey, I want to be there. And you may say that this is not all that different from that, but you can see the addition of the double hung windows in the more pedestrian building, and then the clumsy connection onto what used to be a freestanding building. And then you can see where the tea party actually was, right here. That's what we think. You can see that these openings are quite small, and there was a single door, and without the embellishment that we'll get into. And you can start to see here more the decorative tile that was lifted up, as well as the cornices or the kind of ornamentation along that ridge line. So we tried to pair these side by side so you can actually see the effect of what the construction is and the current. So this is the view of the stairway in the midpoint between the two properties. One would presume that Burnham would have had this stairway in the middle of his overall estate, rising up to a vast land or plateau. And then this is a view on the adjacent property now, looking back at what that view is right now. So it's obviously been severely compromised, and look, there's no turning back. This is a similar view looking at the stairway at the top of the stair going down through the woods, through that long extension back to his original house. So he did not live here. He lived here, maybe he used this 2 years of his life and then he passed away. So when we look at the descriptions, and again, I don't want to kind of run through all of this because the commissioners have probably read this, and so I don't want to kind of point these things out other than to be, if I can be more live here, is to see what has changed from the original. The original had no building here. There's now a building that is clearly in view from that beautiful north vista. The roof line, which used to be tile, has now been diminished, reduced, and downspouts. The fireplace on the south facade, our presumption is that given symmetry, back in the day, one would presume that the window that is opposite the north window is also, there would be one there. But when the buildings were conjoined, and presumption of when the fireplace was built, this was closed in, replastered, to allow that big broad opening going into the two spaces. Originally, this window, again, we didn't get into demolition of that area to expose the lintels, but our presumption is because they no longer had a view to the north, then you have to view more to the east. And then these windows were raised. These windows on the north facade, which again look pretty similar in terms of its mass, were raised up. A different casing was made at the doorway. Electric was taken place. This link, which is all masonry and exposed masonry, if you've been there, it's exposed on inside and outside, give you the ability of using that from an adjacent building, which was also obviously not there at the original. And so the freestanding pavilion in the park, which again, the Burnham Park Pavilion down on the south side that is being restored by the Chicago Park District, it is a publicly accessible building that the Park District is restoring because it is going to be public. This is a private residence. And you can see even from the most distant view from the park that the things that one would think are Burnham, the signatures of Burnham, if they are, it would be the tile roof. The fireplace is no longer evident. The windows and the particular picture window was also new. The dental work and the casing and so forth generally seem to be where they originally were. So again, in terms of what the chapters call for, feeling that using a different, trying to optimize the site as it is right now is a better way to respond to the Burnham legacy than to try to maintain something that has lost many of the aspects of its original integrity that he tried to install. So there was a question about whether you would reproduce this in great detail, and so this shelter house construction frankly could be reconstructed or constructed today without great difficulty. One could presume that you could digitally scan this and kind of document it and have that as a record to rebuild or replace if one chose not to literally lift and move the building, which has not only financial aspects but also experiential aspects, because it was been discussed, Paolo has relayed the discussion with a house moving company, that having a ramp built on the western facade to kind of bring that building down, move it through an enlarged opening between the concrete wall out to the street, and then cutting trees, limbs down to be able to get that, that physical evidence off-site and presumably out to the park is going to impact the existing context in terms of what you're trying to maintain. But it can be done. This could be replaced, and it's nothing, I mean, if you were to try to rebuild this, you would build it in a much better way than letting wood timbers, at least in the middles, bear on wood. Let's see, so just examples of conditions here. Yeah, we don't want to make mention of that the building is in relatively good condition for the age at which it's in and the foundation, which we don't know what it is, but you can start to see that there are areas of breakage that one would expect with a wood frame building, and then the kind of the stamped metal venting that has been installed for the crawl space vents. Mind you that this building does not have any operable windows, which again is probably one of the reasons why it has not been used. So we're going to follow up with like how we would make an argument of how you could best use this site. This is where the project had been, 1949, 1948, the existing shed that was installed here, and the vistas constrained, and then the knee-jerk would be to try to optimize more of the vision to the east and try to maintain as broad a platform as you could. So that, I think, is the end of our demolition. And what I'd like to do before talking at length, if it's okay with the chair, Carl, is to go through the arguments for kind of the decision-making of how we feel that we could better optimize the existing condition.
Sure.
Is that okay? Okay, so the proposed design is trying to kind of take a new body and replace it and position it within the existing fabric. And this is a building, or this is a drawing showing the existing structure, which has the new addition. It is raised up to the minimum height for a one-car garage, which now we need two. But because of that grade change and the grade change of where the shelter house is, it means that there needs to be either steps or, in this case, a ramp to be able to get the public, or let's say an aging place couple, to be able to go down and use that room as it exists right now. And so the diagram that one proposed was to accommodate the code-required two-car garage inboard versus outboard. And so we could minimize paved area, have a compact footprint on the first floor, and then take the stairway up to gain better leverage and conveyance of the view that is really out there for the taking. And if you see that the diagram here, this is really the living space as it currently exists. And this is presuming that the living room is rotated to kind of more front, a broader terrace. The section that is existing is right here with the building. This is the length, 15-inch house currently, and then this is the shelter house and the view out. And so this is from 1910. This is the living space, and you can see that we have pulled the building back while maintaining the height that the current house has, and so that there has not been really any issue from the last meeting of residents in the neighborhood that have issue with the quality and the care of the massing of what is proposed. This was the original, so if you painted a history of this site, this, Lord knows, we all like, okay? This is a broad public space, public terrace, publicly used, publicly invited to people to go up here. This is a folly or a park pavilion. It might have been storage for lawn chairs, who knows? And then 1948, 1950, the partial is cut down, the concrete walls are cut back, the terrace steps are lost, and there is really no exposure in breadth or opening for the public as they would arrive. And then the vista to the north, and then now we have this park off to the east, not the lake. So this is what we are proposing, which is pulling the terrace back away from the building, reducing the amount of impermeable surfaces that currently exist on the site, and trying to be a good neighbor by massing and proportion of openings. So this is the footprint. This is the footprint of the building at that location. The garage entry and the shallow drop to then get that out. This meets all zoning setbacks. The current resident is 27 feet off of the public way, and we're maintaining the same setback, if not a tad more, to the west. And so there should be no real impact in terms of the footprint. This shows that we are increasing the setback of this space in that dimension. These are comparative slides from the south elevation, the existing facility, the existing building, its proximity, and then the proposed, which you can see has a 52-foot setback, and we're proposing a 78-foot setback from the public way, so that the building will be even farther removed from the existing building in terms of its proximity. These are wireframe drawings that the commission has asked for, that you've seen before. And then the proposed, which we brought some samples of the materials, are looking at building the most sustainable building that we can at this time, so that the building is a marker of what our time is asking for. This building is proposed using COT panels over glulam structure for the roof over itself, with a shallow slope bringing water out to the western edge. We have vertical wood siding of varying tones, and we could present those because, again, we're trying to make the argument that, you know, this is going to be complementary to the district. We have a completely exo-insulated building, and so that all of the insulation is outboard of where the structure of the building would be. And then using a cement board panel, which is used here, for example, for this building. This is not the value that we'd be looking for. And then the proportion of the openings that I might have branched over has been calculated in terms of what the existing is, what the current building would be. So this is right now the existing with stumps, branches, wood timber bearing on wood timbers running across, unknown with foundations, but with venting for the crawl. You've got an enlarged window opening from what currently had existed. And then you've got frame insulation, air vents with no roof tile, which was the signature of the building. If you had to say anything was remarkable about this building, it would be that roof. And then this is showing a section of how the best practices would be done at our time, which we have a foundation, a true foundation, exo-insulated for that, as well as exo-insulating with mineral fiber on the exterior of the wood frame building, a CLT structure, rigid insulation that, again, basically gives you the winter parka that you have, right? Right now that you have, you're trying to wrap your structure in a warm blanket. So these are standards of the review of construction that, again, we tried to point to point, give some rationale, and then some images of the existing structure and the proposed new in terms of side-by-side comparison. And so I think I'm happy to answer any questions or just turn it over to the commission for other questions.
All right. Any questions from commissioners of the presentation? All right.
So I think really the question I would leave you with is that as a commission, you are trying to kind of maintain a certain integrity of the structure and a vision that is attainable and responsible to that vision and integrity, whether there's enough here of lasting evidence to maintain a semblance of the original Burnham vision. And it is no longer a freestanding park pavilion. It's no longer probably at a scale to allow numbers of people to attain or to gather. And it's a residence for a family that is trying to do the right thing for the community, its site, and to blend in harmoniously in a different fashion, but with a vision. It's not, we have been quite thoughtful in terms of looking at the history and then proposing something we feel is a finer fit for the existing condition. So, anyway, my case is made, our case is made, and I'll go back and listen to, and actually I should note that Joy Meek, one of my partners, is also on the team, as well as Carrie Frank, and the materials that we have are to the left in our book, and if you'd like to, I could plunk something on the table if you want.
I'm moving so I can see everyone, so I don't have to customers. So for the benefit of everyone here tonight, I think I'm going to read Commissioner Johnson's email. Commissioner Johnson is not able to attend the meeting tonight. He's in England, so due to time issues, he's not able to attend. So I'm going to read his comments so that everyone in the audience tonight can hear them. Let me first say, I think that this is the most consequential decision we have faced in my time as a commissioner. I think it is also the most difficult. The evidence and arguments are almost equally weighted on all sides. I do not think there is any obvious or clear way forward here. Having said that, I would be uncomfortable with this structure being demolished without specific measures in place to preserve at least some of its physical fabric, either on site or moved to another location. The section titled History of the Building. I found the evidence presented by the Evanston History Center compelling. I am persuaded that the building in question is indeed the tea house and that referred to in the 1909 permit. Further, the links outlined by Evanston History Center between the tea house, Burnham's other work, and the World's Fair lend the building's significance. I agree with all parties that the adjoining 1948 house can be demolished. And the section titled Fabric of the Building. Clearly, the original fabric has been much damaged and modified. The western wall is missing, the southern wall is mostly destroyed by the insertion of a fireplace and chimney stack. The western wall has been re-fenestrated and the roof tiles have been replaced. What is left is the north wall, the foundations and flooring, and the roof frame. I would have liked to have seen more detail, and in particular, photos of the results of the investigations reported in the January 16 memo. I am still unclear in particular about the roof frame. Statements to the effect that, quote, the roof is gone are not quite correct. If the wooden roof frame is extant, the roof is not gone. A section titled Landscape Context. It has been repeatedly noted that this has been transformed by the division of the original Burnham lot and the loss of the landscape features around the structure. I am not persuaded by the argument that this loss of original context makes the structure of lesser value. The landscape context of old buildings changes all the time. In any case, what is arguably the most important element of the Burnham landscape, the surrounding wall, is extant. I do not think the Burnham's original intention is either knowable or strictly relevant. And finally, the section titled Possible Movement of the Building to Another Site. This is an attractive option, but A, lack of city council funds, B, lack of an immediately suitable site, and C, the logistical issues raised in the January 16 memo indicate to me that movement of the building as a whole is probably just impractical. I would, however, like to see less drastic options be pursued. A framed building can be disassembled, timber by timber, and reassembled if recording is thorough. The Wolf House Movers proposal, at least as indicated in the January 16 memo, seems to be an all or nothing approach. I am not convinced that a more limited process in which the roof tiles, concrete foundation, chimney stack, etc. were discarded, the frame recorded and disassembled, and the framing elements then transported individually to another location has been fully explored at this point. And one final note, whatever decision is made, as an archaeologist, I would like to see provision for below ground investigation, excavation of the site. So that's from Commissioner Matthew Thomas. I'll just add, the other thing is I did have a conversation with the State Historic Preservation Office about what constitutes this contributing structure to the local historic district. And so the reason that it was not listed as contributing to the local historic district until 2012 was because the National Register District, which is the federal level, the National Register District was drafted in the 1980s. And so the 1945 house at the time for that National Register District had not reached the 50-year mark for the district, so it was not listed as contributing for the National Register District. And so the local historic district then took the federal district, and most of what was drafted for that federal was then used for the local. So then in 2012, the district was resurveyed, and that's when, because of the date of 1945, it now had reached the 50-year mark. That's why it was listed. The entire 1945 edition and the 1909 original structure were listed as contributing to the district. So that the State Historic Preservation Office did recommend that we look at the whole house as in context of a 1945 contributing struck house to the district. So, you know, I know a lot of focus has been on the 1909 Burnham part, but our certificate of appropriateness is for the entire contributing house of this, so that. So anyone else want to add anything?
Open discussion.
Deliberation.
Yeah, was it Professor Scott or Smith? I forgot.
Smith.
Professor Smith's letter notwithstanding, how many people here know what Daniel Burnham was actually doing in 1907? Burnham and Company was the second largest architectural firm in the world. They were building city halls and train stations in major cities throughout the country. Burnham was not, if somehow the thought is that by preserving this structure, we're preserving a work of Daniel Burnham's, that is total and utter nonsense. Burnham had practically nothing to do with the design of the work coming out of his office other than getting the commissions, establishing the program, and overseeing the process. He was running a firm of almost 100 people at that point. If you want to know what his contribution was and what he was doing after running the construction of the World's Fair, it was the various city plans that he and Edward Bennett were doing that was his real contribution. So the likelihood that Burnham ever put a pencil to paper that had anything to do with the construction of this thing is probable. Well, it's not provable, but it's not probable either. I'm not sure after Charles Atwood who his principal designer was by 1907, but whoever that was working on, you know, the Washington's train station, for God's sakes, not doing the tea house. The other thing is, if one's making an argument simply on the basis of architectural merit, the original tea house was no great shakes. And was so, as Dan pointed out, it was so altered and so transformed that other than its footprint and probably the shape and volume of its roof, there's nothing left of what that structure was. So I think making the argument of saving it at great expense makes no sense to me. And I mean, Dan has gone, Wheeler Kearns has gone to great lengths to kind of document what's there, but in fact, based on the quality and the importance of what's there, I don't even think it deserves that level of documentation. So I have absolutely no problem with it disappearing from that site.
Well, because of it's Burnham, and he owned that property, and he raised a family on that site, and just because of his own character, who he was, and at one time the largest architectural firm in the world, the World's Fair, a bunch of other pretty cool stuff. There is some amount of recognition that is drawn to that site just from that perspective. And the fact that, I mean, it was a large piece of property that he owned, and a relatively modest house that he didn't have anything to do with. He bought an existing house on the site where he lived and raised his family. Is there any significance that comes from it was Burnham's property? He lived there. I mean, the Jackson Five didn't build a house that they lived in, but yet it's a very respected historic site. Is there any importance to that? But then, if it's the site and not the one remaining structure, is there some other kind of recognition that that site deserves? I don't know, and I don't know what that may be. I'm just saying, it will be. Is it worth memorializing that Daniel Burnham lived in Evanston?
Yeah.
Charles, do you think keeping this structure memorializes it?
No.
It seems to me the experience of the site as Daniel Burnham's estate is experienced by the Evanston public as the retaining wall that's around it, which is a handsome structure all by itself. And, you know, I mean, I think the city would do well to put up a plaque identifying what had been there, who had lived there when it was built, and what its importance was.
I think that's a great idea.
I just want to comment. I feel like in this case, there's this tension, right? There's different goals. I mean, our commission has a mission in terms of preservation. The homeowner, they have a goal of building a new home. And we just heard a presentation from them and from the architect that they hired So I think it's important to think about incentives here. Our job is to be sort of a third party. We don't have really any skin in the game or to represent the public. I feel like the preservationists here have told us, like a lot of the public comment have told us to preserve it. We have a letter from a professor who's written books and spoken documentaries. We have the Evanston History Center, Landmarks Illinois. Those were letters that came in for the last meeting. These are preservation organizations that are like telling us to preserve this, that it's important. And I agree, it's not just that he built it, or he may or may not have built it, maybe his firm built it. I don't think we really know. Since this was his estate, I don't think we can assume he didn't play a role or didn't have an influence on what it ended up being. I don't think we have any evidence to say one way or the other, but I do think it's important because it was his home, and I know he didn't live there, but there are pictures of his family entertaining there on the beach next to the house. So I mean, I think that's something to consider in terms of, some of the things that were brought up about a dirt floor or, HVAC issues, et cetera. I mean, I'll just speak from experience. My house was built in 1867. We also had a partial dirt floor in the basement, and you can fix that, you can cement it. I mean, I can't speak for this property, but I'm saying these old homes do require changes and modifications. This one has HVAC. It was sort of, they did attempt to make it one home. So, I don't know, I think we should just consider it as it was his home, and if that's part of the importance when we evaluate it. He wasn't just the architect.
Next is Amanda.
Sorry, right now we're just in commission deliberations.
Okay, all right.
Does anyone from the other?
I'm from the other side.
Well, I'm sorry, but I don't mean to.
Well, I think part of it is, it's not a house. It was always a tea house or a garden pavilion or whatever. All the people who wrote, and that's why I do it, preserve homes. So, but everyone who wrote the letters, none of them were there. We were there. So we saw the changes and the conditions. And yeah, it stinks that they didn't restore it, or, someone didn't restore that tea house when they added the addition, all those kind of things. But what's there now, I think we have to ask ourselves if we keep it, and, keep it, we're not gonna, but if we ask them to keep it, is that what we're looking for as a preservation board? And the other thing on the other side of that is that, we keep looking at these schools, and I think we can talk about this, but, the one had a name associated, and we talked a lot about the name, but the Willard, right? Willard wasn't, maybe didn't have anything to do with the school or anything else. So we're kind of in the same boat a little bit, maybe, because it's Burnham's name. But and maybe it's important enough that it's his name and it came out of his office. I don't know the answer, but those are my thoughts.
I mean, we're not talking about landmark yet.
No,
we're just talking about, that would be, if someone wanted to landmark it, then those things would be more relevant. We're just talking about demolishing the structure. Like, the reality is, to your point, like, the fenestration has changed. Like it's irrecognizable in so many respects. It's the idea is beautiful, but I don't think there's enough there.
And as a board, if we say they can't demolish it, would we landmark it? Or would it qualify to be landmarked?
So, there are many different things that kind of are going on. Like,
Right.
If we're discussing, like what Commissioner Johnson said, or other people, let's say, if somehow taking that Burnham associated structure off-site somehow, either moving it completely or deconstructing it. There is history in Evanston and other places of doing that. And in the case of like the Van Bergen house here in Evanston, there was a house that was moved and then landmarked individually here, which could be a solution. But another solution is that, like I said, we're looking at this entire house as the 1945 house. Take Burnham out of the equation and just say, like, this is the 1945 house that's listed as contributing. Does it have enough integrity? Does it, you know, we can look at it that way. So it's, I mean, there are many things, so it's kind of murky to you know, talk about without an end goal.
Right.
Like, what is it that we want? You know, do we want a new, the felon's new house on this property? And then what happens if we approve that? Do we, you know, there's a whole bunch of things. So, yeah.
Could you clarify something for me? At some point this evening, if stuff comes to a vote, will we be voting on the demolition of the house separate from the certificate of appropriateness?
Do you want me to answer? It's one proposal.
It's one proposal.
You can break it down. You can reduce that if you wish.
No, that's
but ultimately,
that's the answer.
ultimately the proposal is demolish what is existing, construct
Okay.
what is.
Wait,
Yeah.
My understanding is that the ordinance does not allow for demolition unless there's a plan within, like a 5-year plan
Yeah.
for the site. And since there is a proposal for a new house on the site, then that is why we're discussing both, right?
You have to review and approve of the replacement structure before the certificate for the entire proposal can be issued. So that's where you could, and it has happened in the past where commissions have voted on demolition and then spent other consecutive meetings getting to that approval, and then ultimately the entire certificate is issued after both of those things are settled. But yeah, that's what it, unless they don't have any plans for 5 years, and then we enforce that by not allowing them to obtain a building permit for 5 years if that is their claim. But in this case, it's not.
I mean, part of the reason I ask that is we've thus far really only discussed the existing structure on the site, not the proposed house that we're being asked to issue a certificate of appropriateness for.
Yeah, I think that's really fair. Does anyone have comments on what's proposed?
Would you say that?
I think-
I only hear Stuart say. Say that again, Stuart, what you just said.
Thus far, the discussion has really only been of the structure that's on the house, the adaptation and addition and remodeling of the Burnham Tea House. In reality, when we issue a certificate of appropriateness, it will be for the house that has been designed for the house. And all I was saying is that we have spent all of our time thus far discussing the 1948 adaptation of the tea house or addition to the tea house, not the proposed structure for the site.
Good point.
I mean, I get what you're saying. It's just, we have standards for demolition, we have standards for new construction. So, I mean, do you want to discuss the new proposal for the new construction standards? I mean, I don't know that we've met a clear consensus on if this is the standards for demolition. I mean, we haven't.
Is a straw vote in order?
Sure, if you want to. But
I mean, I don't want to short circuit.
I just don't want to,
conversation.
I mean, other commissioners haven't spoken yet, so that haven't been at the previous meeting. I just want to let Commissioner Drowler, do you want to speak to anything about this?
I did watch the previous meeting and read through everything multiple times and visit the site. few times, and so on. Look, I've said this before in other meetings, we have to remember how integrity works, right? What we're looking at for integrity has to do with how well it communicates what it's significant for. So if we think it, and I'm with Stuart here, that I'm not sure that there's a clear Burnham connection. Maybe not, but let's just say it is, right? So then from 1909, from the Burnham time period, we have to think about what is, if we were looking for integrity for that time period, what would we be looking for? So I did what I do, which is that I looked up, reminded myself of the 7 aspects of integrity. So, and I went through each one. So the first one is location. The original place where the historic event occurred or the property was built. This is from the National Trust for Historic Places. That is supposed to be done. So is the location intact or not? I think yes, right? I think we're all in favor.
Yeah.
Okay, design is the next one. The combination of elements, form, plan, space, and style that create the property's historic character. I'm just reading it from the National Trust. So we have to think about that. I mean, for me, it's only partially intact, and I think that's a generous way of putting it. I mean, it's every single wall has been modified in some way. Every window has been modified in some way. The door has been modified. The roof structure is still there, and I think it would be unrealistic to expect that the tiles would still be there after 100 years. So I'm not that bothered by that part personally. But the fireplace is there, which wasn't there before. There are some details here and there, but the integrity of design, maybe, how should we say, like the plan is kind of, the massing is there.
Give or take a wall.
Give or take a wall, but the massing is more or less there, but it's only partially intact. Setting, the physical environment, so number 3 is setting, the physical environment that helps define the property's historic role. That is completely compromised, totally gone, and not coming back. Now, there is one thing that Matthew Johnson said, when I usually agree with him, but I don't agree with him on this. Landscapes, yes, landscapes change, but in this particular case, this little outbuilding, is what I'm thinking of it as, was designed and used specifically in relation to its setting. That was its job, to sit in that setting. So the fact that the setting's gone really compromises its integrity. Next one is materials, physical elements used in the original construction. That's partially intact too, for the same reasons that we talked about before, like the original windows are gone, the roof tiles are missing, etc. But some of it is still there. Kind of. Workmanship is the next one, the evidence of craftsmanship from the period. Again, partially intact. I mean, it's a modest building. With some, the way I put it was, it's a modest building with some care given to surface detail, and that surface detail is still intact, actually, like the dental molding and stuff. But I just, as a side note, does everyone understand that dental molding is Greek revival? I'm nerding here. It's Greek, it's not Asian, y'all. Asian is, deep eaves, more openings than there are wall space. Like, there's not a lot going on here that's Asian, just as a reminder. And in fact, in Carl Smith's letter, the word tea house was in quotation marks, and I agree with that. In any case, the next one is feeling. And I think we are actually living in the world of feeling here in terms of integrity. Feeling is defined by the National Trust for Historic Preservation as, not National Trust, y'all.
Secretary
of the Interior. Thank you. The property's expression of an aesthetic or historic sense. That's what feeling is. And this one has always been hard. Whenever I've talked to clients about this one, how do you actually sort of put that into words? Because by definition, feeling is not something you can put into words, except for maybe if there's a poet on the commission that can do it. And I didn't mean that as a joke. That's actually like hard to do. In my sense, it's partially compromised. There was a historic sensibility about this building that that no longer exists, and it will never exist again. And that was important to its value to this property. And then association, direct link between the property and an important person or event. And so again, maybe that's intact, maybe it's not. We're wondering about that. So there's not a lot that's intact here.
But that's in terms of the 1909 Daniel Burnham context.
Right.
In terms of the 2012 resurvey, the historic features on page 82 of the packet, all of those historic features that are listed from that resurvey of the district are intact.
But
And that's why it's contributing to the historic district.
Well, actually, you said it was
Right.
contributing to the historic district because of its age. But let's go back for a second.
I'm
What
just
we're
wondering.
saying is, no, what I'm saying is, if we are thinking about integrity is about communicating the thing for which it is significant. So if we think it's significant for the Burnham era, then we have to look at that part. And there's not much that's intact. There are some elements that are intact. When you stand in the southeast corner across the street and look back, you do see the corner of the building, and it does feel from that perspective that the building is intact. But when you start to look at some of the details, there isn't a lot more that's intact. It's a complicated thing. I mean, I'm not saying that it's a clear cut. You asked me for my comments, so
Right.
I'm giving you a few.
Right.
And if we are going to try to think about integrity from the point of view of 1909, there isn't a ton left. And the things that are left were not as significant to the historic quality of the building as the things that are gone.
Sarah, how does that tie into the standards, like integrity? Like, I'm not exactly seeing that term under our standards for demolition. Like, how do you see that tying in?
Photographs of the original building that-
So integrity has to do with the
I'm up there. I think it'd be helpful.
what we think it's significant for.
But what is there a certain standard you're tying that back to, or?
I was thinking about it in terms of what's left for us to save or not save. So that's how you determine what's left to save or not save, is by going through integrity. That's the way that we do it.
Well, for me, I guess, when I look at the standards, and I said this at the first meeting, standard 1 is the one that stands out for me for standards of demolition. So whether a property structure or object is of such historic, cultural, architectural, or archaeological significance that its demolition would be detrimental to the public interest and contrary to the general welfare of the people of the state, of the city and the state. And for me, I think what your examples, I thought you did a great job of going through those, but I felt like those were so literal. And I think this building has a cultural significance, which is less tangible. When I see the pictures, the historic pictures next to the current building, the massing, I see the building. It's not hard for me to make that connection. Maybe there's some issues with condition, but honestly, I thought the condition for the age was pretty good. I saw a few cracks in the exterior, and exterior is all we're looking at too. The interior photos are fine, but that's not supposed to be like our consideration, like what it looks like on the inside or any of that. It's the exterior that we're looking at. And from my eyes, even the original, the 1940s, whatever structure, Carl, what year was it, 1948? I thought the condition on that structure looked good too.
Can I just say,
Strip out the inside.
Integrity, now I agree, we should not be dealing with the inside,
Yeah.
whether it is on dirt or not, whether it's
on the left.
insulated or not, none of those
Right.
things are relevant to us,
Yes.
so that's fine.
There you
And
go.
also condition and integrity are not the same thing. so everyone understands. You know, it's, it can be in terrible condition and have tons of integrity, or can have tons of integrity and be in great, I mean,
Bad condition.
bad, right? Because I've seen both of those in my career. You know, when we're looking at standard number 1, you know, can it communicate that significance? If it's not communicating the significance, then it doesn't meet the standard. So that's what integrity is. That's how you determine whether you're communicating that significance or not.
Can I say something? I asked Kate to get that image up, because even though the placement of openings is similar and the volume of roof is similar, I would contend, dentals included, that building is basically kind of stripped down classical. And everything coming out of the Burnham office at that point in time, because Burnham, along with McKim and the firm of McKim, Mead and White, were actually driving not only the City Beautiful movement, but the whole idea, but the classical revival. And if you look at the framing of the door and the windows, if you look at the roof overhang, which I guess had dentals, if you look at the roof and the ridge and the ridge slopes, I mean, I think it's a very simplified classical building. And I think the stuccoing, the trimming out of the new window openings, and the stuccoing of the building destroy the integrity. Because the integrity was the intention of that building as a kind of simple classical pavilion. And for me, that was the intention of that building. So I would argue that the integrity in the remodeling of the building and the changing, basically the changing of its architectural style, destroy the integrity in a very complete way, even though the footprint and the roof form are similar.
If it were my, I'm sorry, if it were my property, I'd keep it. But I don't know if we have the right to force somebody to keep it.
That's literally what we're doing.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure that
That's literally
we,
what we do. We say,
yeah,
you know, in a
Yeah.
historic district, that's
right.
exactly
But
what
I
we
don't know if in this particular case, if it is appropriate for us to force them to keep a building that has been so altered over time, such that it does not really express what it was supposed to have been doing at the time.
Can I ask you a question, Sarah?
You could always restore it to the image there by ripping down part of it and redoing the whole building, except I think that's an absurd proposition.
Well, we don't have, we
Well, I think
don't
that's-
Yeah.
force people to restore a building.
That's Sarah's point. There were some other comments earlier where, and I think the intention is right, but when the commission says that they feel a certain way or they would like certain things to happen, there's this spectrum of meeting the standards. This is the bare minimum. The other end of that spectrum is tearing down everything but that and recreating this structure. And having that's the other end of the spectrum, which is a wonderful outcome, but all they have to do is meet the standards. So it's not that, if that makes sense, you can't, and I think that's what you mean by saying you can't force someone to do that. It's that they just have to meet the standards.
Well, it's
there
just
might be better outcomes
Right.
that might be preferred
So
as a
an
commission.
example is James Madison's house. You know, over time, his son got into gambling and steeplechase racing, and they built an Art Deco, addition to the house. And people said, "Oh no, it's gone." That the integrity is completely gone. They painted over it and everything. But then they, like you said, they went to the extreme. They removed the Art Deco addition and they restored the original house. I mean, that can be done. I don't think we're proposing that we go back to this. I think people are looking at, you know, we have a 1909 structure with a 1945 addition. Was there an effort to reuse or rehabilitate the 1945 addition to meet the needs of a new house? I mean,
I have a question. So you made a point that it was the 40 to 50 year thing, so
Yeah.
1980. That seems to disregard the Burnham connection.
right. I mean, that's what I mean. That's why I asked the state
Right.
historic preservation office. They said, you know, we have this Burnham claim that came, you know, people have written about, but then that's what our certificate of appropriateness is, to review something and why is it contributing to the district? It's because of the 45 house. So, I mean, that's what we.
But didn't the 45 house ruin the integrity of the tea house?
Yeah. But the 45 house is also in context.
Right.
If you think about it, they were building in context of all the other modern
Right.
houses in the area, which,
But again, we've
Yeah.
been focusing on the tea house.
right.
Quote unquote.
Quote unquote, and the house, you change the integrity of the tea house.
I know, but it's
Yeah, no,
Do we have any language from the 2012 resurvey that like explains why it was contributing? Do we know why they decided all of a sudden that it
we'd
was?
have to ask
No, it's
Victoria
just-
Granite, but
It's all age related. I mean, that's very common in the industry to work backwards, and unless there are such outlandish alterations to it, and it's within that period. You know, I would just say that whether you're reviewing, you should review the 1948 structure. You should review the 1909 structure and you should review them through the same standards. Does the 1948 structure have significance? Does it not? Is it distinctive? Can it easily be reproduced? All of those questions should be asked for that, as well as the
Okay, could we see the,
structure.
today, the present picture of the site, the house addition? That's not good.
Top. That's
So I
probably
still
the
think
best.
it's interesting that we're talking about whether this house should be kept and whether it's sufficiently important, B, sufficiently, I don't want to say intact, but
It's okay to say intact. That's not a bad
sufficiently
word.
intact that we should keep it. But in fact, what we're going to vote on tonight is a certificate of appropriateness for the Pellon's house designed by Wheeler Kearns, which we have not talked about at all,
So I'll jump in and say.
which is a very handsome contemporary house. And I don't know, if we don't talk about it, we don't talk about it. Frankly, I've known Dan Wheeler since he arrived in the city. I have followed his work and his career. And, you know, I'm almost willing to take it on faith that it will be a nice house that will be thought well of 50 years from now.
I don't think that we should say, well, because we like this house, it's okay to demolish something else.
Right.
We should, I don't disagree.
We
I like
have,
the-
we have standards.
Yes,
Should
I don't
we
disagree.
talk about that?
We'll talk about this for a
Otherwise
second,
you're
but they don't
standards.
get to do this unless we say that it's okay to demolish the house. And just because we
Or
like
if we
this.
say the house is
doesn't-
okay, then we're approving the demolition.
Right, so I don't know, I think we should.
Speaking to the 1948 edition or the 39 edition, whatever it was, you can't see almost any of it from the street. Really, you can only see the tea house, for whatever that's
well,
worth.
you can
Well,
see
no,
you can
you
see
can
the
see
garage,
it.
the one
Coming from
the
the
western
western
facade you
side.
can see obliquely when you turn on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just throw this out there, that we've all kind of expressed some opinions, and I think there's a good chance that we've all come to a conclusion, what we think
Yeah.
about issuing a COA for the demolition.
So maybe we should.
So
just
from a
call it-
process point of view, it sounds like we want to come to agreement on that, not necessarily take a vote, but kind of know where we're going, to know whether it's worth pursuing what Stuart said, which is discussing the merits of it. So I'm going to reiterate my suggestion that we do a straw poll on the demolition so we know whether it makes sense to talk about the proposed house.
And can I just ask, sorry, one more question? Is it possible that we approve the demolition but not approve the house at this meeting?
I would think that's what
If they want to.
said could be done, right?
Yeah, the
We
only,
talked about it before.
the only caveat to that is that they just have to agree to that, because you already continued it once, it's one proposal. If
I
they're-
don't know that there's any value to, why would we do that?
Well, we have.
Well, I
it's just
don't
because
think
we
we've
have.
really focused.
So I'll do this. I'll start the
Yeah,
straw
no, I know.
poll, and I'll say that just to be real plain and simple, I think this is tough, but I think to vote to preserve the house is to try to make up for the sins of the past. And this, that was 1948 when the house was essentially, the building was compromised. And we can't go back in time. And so that's unfortunate, but I'm willing to face that fact and say that I think it's, in my opinion, appropriate to be removed because of the loss of integrity. And to go on record for the next part of the conversation, if it happens, I think given the number of mid-century modern buildings in the neighborhood and the scale of the proposed building and the materials, it's an appropriate addition to the neighborhood. Next.
Sarah, finish your sentence.
He said next.
Oh, next.
I'll go next. I agree. I would really like detailed drawings of the tea house before, if they remove it, to have the documentation of it in case. And I agree with Matthew that care needs to be taken when they take it down to see if anything is recoverable.
Well, do you want detailed drawings of that thing, or do you
Yeah.
want the original Burnham?
Just the original
Tea house.
Burnham tea house.
So that's really a reconstruction, and there are people around who I'm sure, from the information that's there and from the photographs, could make that drawing.
Well, it would fall on the onus of the owner, so that's what I was just saying.
That's an expensive ask, by the way.
Well, I think what she's, just to be clear, you're asking for as-built. You want what's there to be documented.
Yes.
Yeah, as-built. We do as-built.
And after.
What happened to Tom's straw poll?
We're going around, I think that's what's
I
happening.
just said yes as well.
Two, yeah. Sarah? Or whoever's ready.
Sarah, you want to do a pass? I'm a yes on the demolition.
First of all, I just want to say, the reason we're calling it a tea house is because it was, I think, documented by the History Center and by the family, they called it the tea house. So it was, I think the quotes you're saying, that was literally what they called it. I think, and I've said this before, I think this is culturally significant, not because it's Burnham's finest building, certainly not, but more because this was his estate that he lived in for decades with his family. I know this piece wasn't built until later on in his life, but I actually feel like knowing what I know about him, now that I've also taken the time to reflect after the month, as he was evolving this city beautiful, he was incorporating more landscape and open spaces, and I feel like this was maybe the culmination of kind of where his architectural style was going. He put this sort of in this beautiful garden right abutting the shores of Lake Michigan. And there's pictures, I think someone submitted of him sitting on the beach, sketching or something. So I think it's an important reminder of history and attachment to history. And as I was reading about him and thinking about him, and one of the things I wrote down was someone had said in what I was looking at, he was the most influential and impactful figure in the U.S. For urban planning and architecture. So it's because of who he was, not the example of this building per se. Like, I understand this building's integrity is the compromise.
Is that a no?
I can talk. This is why we're here, right? We're deliberating.
I apologize.
Thank you. This is an important building. I think it's cultural more than architectural, and I think we're focusing a lot on architectural, and that's just one piece of preservation.
Wow. I agree with everything everyone said so far. And I'll ask
He
him.
agrees with whatever.
You know, he,
How?
when this building was built, I think it was built just a few years before he died. He already knew that he was sick, and he was like focused more on, you know, this home life. So it's Burnham. If it was Joe somebody, you know, but I think the significance of the building, the space, the person, the whole thing, but and the site, that when this building is gone, it would be the last connection. But basically, the spirit of the site still remains, and I saw this picture from that wonderful CD you lent me of Burnham with his wife and kids. That on the front, I think it's on the front porch of that house. We are preserving a space and a spirit, and but I think there's also a connection between the tea house and the work that had been done at the World's Fair and or the exposition. I am a yes for demolition, but I'm also a yes for the preservation of the fact that Burnham lived there and a very, very influential, great person lived in Evanston and was involved in
So like I've lived, you know, within walking distance of this house for 10 years. My daughter goes to that, you know, park across the street regularly, and maybe it's because there's no sidewalk that actually goes in front of this. Like I've walked down Burnham on the opposite side so many times, and like it is very hard to get a full sense of it, partially because of the landscaping. Like to know what this is, what this looks like now from grade, like is interesting to me, but that would only further confirm to me that like there is not a public interest in keeping what's left of this building. Like when we think about what we're preserving, it's this sense, this feeling, and like I've never gotten much of a feeling from the 10 feet below of what it is. Of course, not knowing that Burnham had anything to do with it, or if he did at all. So I'm definitely a yes for demolition.
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Johnson that this is probably one of the most difficult votes we're going to take on this commission. Because there is this connection with Burnham, I do want that connection with Burnham somehow saved, whether it's on site or potentially somewhere else. I don't really necessarily like that we're pitting the one against the other, that it's it's either for Burnham, like we're saving it because of Burnham, or we're not. We think it's not worth saving because it's just a ho-hum, mid-century modern house, which I don't think it is. I think it's a handsome house. I think it's nice. I think it definitely contributes to the historic district. I don't really think that I just personally don't think that wholesale demolition of an entire house is the way to go, because it is livable, it is functional, I mean, someone was living in this house. It may not be what the current property owner wants, but I don't think that means that we can just say, yeah, demolish the whole thing. I'm fine with alterations to it. I'm fine with, some kind of compromise, but I don't think that wholesale demolition is the right approach.
So am I the
Yeah.
last? I'm the last.
So, did, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, first of all, I think that the name tea house comes from that drawing that the great niece did, 100 years after this thing was built. So I don't think that there's any question that they called it the tea house. At least I'm sure, I feel confident that the family called it a tea house. I don't at all believe that there's very much connection between that and the 1893 World's Fair. So that's what I was saying before. That doesn't seem quite right to me. So I think we need to be careful about that, about assuming some significance as a result of that connection or association. In any case, none of us are on this commission in order to say yes to demolitions. Right? Can we at least admit that we're not here because we like to say yes to demolitions? No, nobody wants to be on the commission saying yes to a demolition. But I mean, we have standards to follow, and the reality here is that actually it was probably a handsome little outbuilding when it was done, but it's been altered beyond its. I'm sure that we all wish that they hadn't done all this stuff to it, but they did. And there's only like one corner of it that's publicly visible, which is our jurisdiction. And so I'm a yes on the demolition, even though I hate to say it. It's my first yes ever in my whole 25 years career.
So the math,
6-2.
6-2.
okay. So does it make sense then to discuss the proposed building?
Yes.
Sure.
I've already made my 2 cents.
Should we, it's 10 to 9. Oh.
Sarah, are you requesting a break or?
Well, I was just asking if we're moving into another phase of the meeting. I know that we typically take a break at 9,
Sure.
but if we're moving into another phase, a few minutes, I would not, but I don't want to impose that on other people. Charles, you look confused.
I am always confused. It's fun, actually, to be confused.
No,
What do you want to continue with? The question, I guess, is do you want to continue discussing this new part of the?
oh yeah.
And then take the break, or take the break and then. Is that
I
what
think she's saying
that
we
what
just started a new part of the conversation, maybe we should take a break.
Can I ask a quick question first, sorry? Can we ask the architect if these are just kind of like maybe sortas, or are they real drawings? And I'm asking because
They're
real drawings.
It's a proposal.
That's what they're proposing, right?
well, sometimes we look at construction drawings,
Right.
and sometimes we look at, schematics.
Because of the sketches that we look that.
I'm just asking the question.
Okay.
Were they presenting this as a feeling for what they're gonna do, or is this exactly what they're
Well,
gonna do?
this is what they proposed.
Yeah.
This is what they gave us as their proposal. So we
Okay.
can,
I
If we
just
approve
wanted-
it, they're stuck with it.
as the
The
commission.
flip side of it is that making the construction drawings are so labor intensive, they would be insane to do that before we approve it.
I totally understand.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's an architect. She
I'm
gets
an
it.
architect, I know,
Right.
but I'm just asking, is it just, that's all I want to know.
We have 10 minutes to 9, so we either take a break now or we wait until all the other conversations are. So is it okay?
Yeah,
if we
let's just take a break.
take a few minutes? Okay.
And be back at what?
Yeah, tell us when.
Okay.
We used to just take 5 minutes.
Well, it's 8:51 now. Do you want to do
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock?
Want some water? Get you a glass of water, anybody?
I'm drinking down my water. We're gonna need another break in 2 hours from now. Oh my gosh.
Oh, this watch is 67 years old. Oh my God. It was high school graduation. I'm serious.
Well, sure. We'll do mine by mine. Okay. We'll do mine by mine. We'll fall where it is.
Stuart, I wanted to say hi. Jackie, I don't know if you remember me. I own the garden unit out in Forestwood. I'm good. How are you? I didn't realize you were on vacation.
Yeah.
You know,
Julie was on 4 years.
She was on when, yes. Then you came on. Okay.
You're saying that because I was.
So I live next door. Yeah, right next door. So I'm hoping they'll be my. I feel like really well-designed house to the site. And you water. No, I'm touching my parents. I never looked at
So for me, I think that's good. They can talk about it.
Say hi to Julie.
I think I might work over there. Ask Kate. I asked for the break and they're not using it. I better go. I'm drinking down my water.
why did we see it?
Oh, we did have the best ones.
What a great view. Anyway.
I would have loved to have built a curriculum, because that would have given value to it. And if I say that I got something to learn, that would be. That's right, we probably, as soon as it goes all up, we're really starting to get into
You have a couple of this? Two? Actually, disposed of.
Yeah, it's insulation, yeah, pull through fiberglass, so, you know, our nice kitchen, so still or essentially damaged right through these little slots. So I think Chris, we've been doing these a lot. Pretty
When you have that facing.
And this is the CRT, it'll be 5 plies versus the 3. Oh, the one we have.
Which
Yeah, that's Andy. That was Andy Tanucci is part of
the house. I noticed that there's the brick is probably.
It's sent back.
And you proceed really fact to talk to the lady. She says, oh, the people repainting the wall.
I think fine.
Gave up that office.
Well, of course, the
And I've had conversations with Margaret, and Margaret has had client calls because she doesn't have enough to keep her busy. Well, that's where I've got plenty of stuff to do. Plus, teach this semester.
That was for you. I set it down, and then somebody asked me to show him something.
For me, the standards are less of an issue. I think you have to go almost to the edge of the park to even begin to see that.
Yeah. Well, it's hard. I've always found it. You read all of the standards; they all relate almost exclusively to visual compatibility of a street, and then you have house, and then it's pushed back, so it just reads very independently.
I mean, that's part of the argument. I mean, if somebody goes after the wood side and the flat roof, and the flat roof, I mean, I think
Yeah, that's why that one south of Greenwood it kind of works too, because it's not part of any street.
Yeah,
so this is much more What building, do you remember what building was there that one replaced? I don't know either. No, there was, because I was reading all the minutes from the commission, and I was just really curious because all the commissioners are talking like it's such a piece of shit. Whatever was there was like so god awful that they were like, thank God they're getting rid of it. And I was just so curious, what would that have been? Is that Tudor house? Maybe? I don't know. Right. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Long night. I know. Do you want me to try to round them up?
You all, we have a pitcher of water if anyone wants. All right, cool. So we are now back. We did a straw poll. Do you want to take a vote to see if it meets these standards for demolition? Because, or
Yes.
okay.
Well, what I was saying is that since we're gonna vote for both the demolition and the proposed, it would be good to know the answer to the first part, which seems to be that we're gonna vote in the affirmative that can be demolished. But to vote yes or no on the whole proposal, the COA, we need to discuss the proposed.
Okay.
So we just
So you want to wait and do the vote all at the end?
I think so, yeah.
All right. So that then means we're discussing standards for construction for the new proposal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can I preface that discussion by saying a couple of things? You know, for years and years and years, I've been adamantly against the Secretary of the Standards Interiors, which suggested that any addition, for instance, to a landmark building had to be significantly different and had to be removable, both of which I think are kind of absurd propositions. And what I've always really admired about our standards is that what they ask for is that a new building be visually compatible with the other structures in a neighborhood or on a street that that structure is seen in conjunction with. Having said that, what I think is difficult with respect to going through the standards for new construction with respect to the design we're being asked to look at is that that's not being built adjacent to any of the houses on the street. It's kind of up there. In fact, I don't even know, with that being set back further, if you can get far enough away from it into the park to even see more than just the fact that there's something there. So I'm not, having said that, I'm not sure what it would mean to go through each of the standards for construction one at a time.
Well, they are keeping that driveway along Burnham Place. So you would, you would see the two-story garage and then
garage and
house above, like you currently see that, you know, that's what would be visible.
Yeah. I mean, you have
But
to,
you're right,
stick your head in there to see it. I guess that's the view on the upper
left is what you see.
Yeah.
I think the way our rules work, you can't vote on demo unless they have a plan for the house.
No,
But
I think what Stuart is saying is the proposal, it's essentially I think what they're doing is the current dining room, living room is a long rectangle, and they're rotating it 90 degrees kind of so that there is more of a setback from the eastern wall to the house, right?
Yeah, so all I'm doing is raising the question is if we use the standards for construction as they're written out, which I greatly admire, then how do we deal with the fact that you actually don't see this building as part of a continuous streetscape, or even even in conjunction with adjacent houses?
Well, every site's different. Some houses have more space, some are cheek by jowl, this one just has a little extra space. So I think we can still use the standards, and I think it's visible from a public way, so I think we just carry on.
I'm not at all bothered by that. You pass other buildings on your way to this one, so I think it's okay. May I ask a question? Has anything changed with this house, the proposal for the house, since the last?
No. It's the same proposal.
So if we were to ask the architect to do a presentation about this proposal, it would be the exact same thing as the previous meeting? Okay, no problem. I watched that. All good.
In terms of the context of, more recently built homes, like we were discussing, sidebar, like there's a house that probably has a Greenwood address that is sort of a block down. It's a subdivided lot from a turn of the century home, very similar in style to this house. I don't know if you can.
Talking north of here?
North of the proposed.
It's all the way at the end of Greenwood.
I think it's in the presentation. It was in the architect's presentation.
What page?
Do we have a page for that?
Finding it now, sorry. It's on page 16.
Okay.
On 16?
Yes.
Oh, 16 of your presentation.
Yes.
Which is going
to.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So it's bottom left there in Greenwood. I just think it's worth noting that a previous iteration of this, commission approved it, and I think it's sort of if we're having a conversation about in keeping with the kinds of homes that are being built during this era, it seems like a pretty natural extension of that. Even in terms of building materials.
Is there a photo of the house just to the west of this house?
Yeah, it's on 15. And it's also in the bottom left there.
Yeah.
They also changed the front of that house pretty significantly, I would argue, stylistically, about 5 years ago, to add those two dormers. It's just as a sidebar.
It has been on, yeah.
And the owner is here.
There was one dormer, we added a second one.
Yeah.
They've copied it exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're talking about additions to, the house on the top left also had a garage addition that was added. It was extruded out westward. So, I mean, recent, yeah.
Is that's the one we talked about?
Mm-hmm.
That's the one we talked about, right?
All right. So,
A few years back.
does anyone have any comments on the proposal of the house? I mean, they did an analysis of solids to voids compared to, the proposal to the existing. That's one of our standards, is to look at solids to voids of a proposed addition or new construction compared to other properties. But they did it compared to the existing. Does anyone have any comments on the proposal? Or
It's a pretty simple design. It's elegant. It's a lot of glass.
Great use of the site, I think. It's-
And I like that's pulled back really from where the existing house is.
I mean, would it be helpful to go through the standards for construction to see if it, you know, if it meets them or?
For reference, our responses to the standards are on page 57 and 58. And I know it's smaller text, but we have kind of highlighted our responses to the standards there.
Could you?
Yeah, maybe.
No, I think Kate's got it.
Oh.
I mean, we can take them in.
Numbering on my PDFs.
I'm not able to find, do you know what page that's in the
It's-
packet?
The packet numbering is
I
different.
know,
right?
but then their presentation.
So they're
I
saying
can't-
58
And I'm going to
on-
57, it's like, it's a different page.
I'm on
so-
63 and it's not, I'm not finding it.
It's, oh yeah, in the subscript, if you can, it's page 6,
It's 70.
62 in the bottom left corner, it says what page it is of our.
It's 73 of the packet.
73, thank you. Got it. Sort of.
Well, again, I mean, what do we do with things like standard 5, rhythm of spacing of structures on the street? We get a choice which is yes or no for applicable, yes or no for appropriate, but how about not applicable?
I mean, it's just like what Commissioner Driller was saying, you know, as you're walking down the street, it's just, what is the condition of that street, you know, as you're walking down, there's.
It's the retaining wall.
It's house, 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 and then retaining wall. But then on the other side, there are houses. So do you think that it maintains that appearance or, you know, spacing? Is, I guess, what
You also-
standards are.
From spacing from what? The next adjacent house?
You also don't have to have consensus on which ones are applicable. That's up to your own.
Right.
If you believe it's not applicable, and
Then we,
Thomas thinks it is, when it comes down to voting on it, you know,
Some are
if you
gonna be
didn't think it
more-
was met, you would cite that it's not met. But
Rhythm of
Even if
Some
it's
might
applicable,
porches.
it might not be as important as some other one that is applicable. I mean, let's just take roof shape, for instance. Right, it's one continuous roof. So do we have something that it's compatible with in the images here?
I think that, yeah, like the other mid-century modern houses, and I'm saying mid-century modern, I don't know the actual dates of the other houses, and I think they have the architect has a slide which shows a number of the other houses, and there's not a lot, but there's enough of them that there's,
are we talking about the houses
like
on
the
Dempster?
one on the upper left, I think.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
actually a continuous slope, isn't that a kick and kick on the right?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, so I mean, they pretty much
So the Keck and Keck
borrow the kick and kick roof.
is within the district, but is pretty far away from the current site.
Right, I guess I'm just
No.
saying that like if we're talking about style,
Okay.
you can walk around the neighborhood
Yeah.
and it's not going to stand out like a sore thumb. It's not going to be intrusive because there are other examples of, you know, I mean, you know, the one on the bottom right is a little bit larger, but the Keck and Keck and the other one, I mean, they're reasonably scaled. I think they're comparable scale materials, like the distinction, there's like brick, and then it looks like it's some kind of corrugated metal siding. They've got they've differentiated materials at the base on the second floor, which is consistent with the three two-story buildings.
Of course, that's a one-story.
Honestly, this area of Evanston is so eclectic. Right. I feel like what we need, maybe should be thinking more about is the sort of scale of the thing.
Right. Yeah.
And the way that it sits on the site and its relationship to the public way.
Yeah.
Rather than, rather than style.
Because you have a Victorian right next to an international style house next to a, Queen Anne.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually one of the things that I like about this part of Evanston is that there's a lot of stuff going on. You can kind of walk through architectural history over here. From my perspective, if we're talking about, what were the things I just said? Scale and siting are certainly compatible with, say, bottom left in this image, top left. I mean, this is what the architect gave us, so of course they're going to give us stuff that's going to be.
I mean, I personally think the bottom left is larger in scale than what the house is that they're proposing, and is much more visible than what they're proposing. I mean, this is that you walk right down the lakefront trail and it's boom, it's right there.
Yeah.
I mean, what they're proposing is more low scale, I think.
Yeah. So maybe I said bottom left mostly because it's a wide site, but maybe bottom right is more applicable, or top left. Top left is probably, in this particular image, is probably the most applicable in terms of compatibility.
And that's on the same street. It's just down farther west from the site.
One of the things that I liked about this, the new design, is the placement on the site and how it's not trying to be sort of flashy, or flashy is the wrong word, but sort of in your face. It's quiet. It's quiet.
I mean, it could be another, considering the location on the lake. I mean, we could be easily looking at a 3-story.
Huge.
With
big
this large site, it's almost, almost 0.4 acres, right? I think, and the zoning I think you could have a big house there.
Well, it's not a small house, but somehow the way it's designed, it doesn't
Well, I mean,
feel
like you
huge.
could have a 2-story huge, it could be.
That looms over you when
It could
you're
be really
walking
big.
on the sidewalk next to the thing. And
Yeah, I'm thankful that we're contemplating this design over something that we might, considering the standards, have to approve something that's much more,
McMansion.
overstated.
McMansion, that's it, you said
We'll
it.
manage.
I just think, if you were gonna put something here that was going to acknowledge the fact that it used to be an open area, this is probably about as close as you can get to leaving it open and still having a house here. It's pretty modest for this location.
Are we in a position to make a motion, or do we want to talk further? I'd like to make a motion, I don't have the price. I'd like to make a motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness for 25 Pres 0134111 Burnham Place, as described by Dan Wheeler of Wheeler Council. Do I have a second?
Okay.
Yes.
I think that, now that we're at the point of voting, I think it would be appropriate to ask for some conditions on this. Especially, I agree with Commissioner Johnson that there should be some kind of documentation done of the property. And I also think that I want to honor his request that there should be some kind of survey done. It doesn't have to, I think what he's requesting is that there is some kind of site survey done of the property.
Well, he was asking in terms of archaeological stuff.
Right, which is one of the standards for demolition.
Right, but when you say survey, is that what you mean?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Because
Just so we're clear, the words have different meanings. There would be a plat of survey. They did have a plat of survey.
I think what.
You mean like an archaeological
Yes.
survey?
That's why I was asking.
Yeah.
Yes.
How does that relate to?
Because one of our standards for demolition talks about, isn't there,
1 and 2
if there is some kind of archaeological, if it could be detrimental to something of archaeological significance, or to the archaeological character of, and so Commissioner Johnson did bring this up at the last meeting, and he's not here to talk, and so his letter did request that he would request that if he was here at the meeting.
Well, I think kind of normally if something like that would be done, then the owner would be responsible for notifying of any architectural item, skeleton, bones, whatever, on the site, but then who would be notified? Where would that notification?
I don't think we're talking about human remains at this point. I think what we're talking about is the potential of anything from the Burnham era on the site that could be discovered.
Could be a body.
Well, okay, so let's go back. If there are human remains, there are.
That's a whole other thing.
No, but we've talked about this.
Yeah,
there's Native American area out here too. If there are human remains, I believe that they are required to stop the project and notify the state and a coroner, but the state gets involved these days with the new law. And so there's a process for that. But what I believe what Carl is talking about is something other than that, because they're going to be digging here and extending the foundation a little bit, right? Because the house goes until here, but they want to extend it farther forward. And it is very likely, I agree with Matthew on this, that they could potentially find some materiality that is not human remains that could be of interest. Garbage, we call it garbage, right? But midden is the archaeological term, right? Different things that we might find in there that could be of interest. What is the, what can we, as long as I've been on the commission, we have never asked this of an owner before. So would we, in terms of the condition, would we ask them to retain an archaeology consultant who would then help them? Like, what's the condition actually for this?
So I don't think it's ever come up before, because there isn't, at least I can never remember a situation where the likelihood of discovery was probably as high, and that's just because this is all fill.
Right.
I don't, and just to back up a second, I don't think the applicable standard is in demolition. I think the applicable standard is the archaeological significance within new construction is the one that you're saying.
Oh, for construction? Yeah.
For new.
I think the one for demolition is that it's a known archaeological site that somebody is, so that's what's significant. But the new construction itself, which is going to disturb the site, they are already responsible for treating any of those discoveries with sensitivity, which could be, salvaging them, setting them aside. But I think it's an important distinction to say we're not talking about what most people would think that standard is talking about, that because it's fill, we're talking about this debris and garbage, that this refuse that was left over that might be of interest. Conditions are applied when you don't think a standard is met otherwise, so it's only met with the condition. So I think that would just be up to you if you think that that's what's necessary, or is it a good faith effort of when they are excavating the site that they are treating that with sensitivity and setting things aside, and that they're in contact with myself or somebody. I'm not sure. I can't tell you, yes, it means they have to hire somebody necessarily.
So a couple of things come to mind. First of all, I'm not sure that the untrained eye would know what is valuable and what isn't. I mean, you can tell if it's a human remain, or usually you can. But, you know, if it's a little piece of pottery or something, or some other thing that's left over from the Burnham era, you know, I just don't know whether somebody, even the best contractors, they're not necessarily gonna know what they're looking for. So it would have to be something. I'm reminded of an exhibit and some work that happened at the Charnley Persky House a year or two ago. You know what I'm talking about, right? It was a professor at
Lake Forest.
Lake Forest.
Yeah.
I remember when I was working at the Society of Architectural Historians that she came in, I met her, but her name is escaping me. I can look it up.
It's Virginia Graff, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Is that it?
No.
It's not Virginia?
Rachel?
No. It's easy to find. Good thing it's not being recorded so that nobody's going to feel bad that I forgot her name. But anyway, so there are people in this area, and what she did is she excavated at the Charnley Persky House, which is the international headquarters for the Society of Architectural Historians in the Gold Coast, and she found lots of stuff there from the 1893 World's Fair, and you know, learned a lot about the 1893 World's Fair from the site there. So she might be somebody who would have an interest in being able to do this in a way that isn't very expensive or time consuming. And she's right here.
So Commissioner Johnson, I asked the same question I asked, is Rebecca Graff someone that could be the person? And then he also said my colleague Mark Hauser did some work on the circa 1900 boathouses at Northwestern and might be also worth contacting.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say, I don't think we're in the business of telling homeowners who they're supposed to hire.
No.
That's where I thought that.
No. It's just it's whether it's actually realistic and feasible to ask, and then they can decide who they're. But you know, we're not. If we feel like it's something that's like completely outrageous to ask, then we shouldn't put it as a condition. But if we know that there are people in the area that could potentially, or at least that there would be a good faith effort to try to make sure that when they're excavating this site that they see if there's any stuff related to Daniel Burnham's, you know, occupation of the place. You know, maybe we put that as a condition, which we would not have as a condition for other properties, other builds in other places. That's all I'm saying. Mm-hmm. I would not. I want to be clear. Thank you.
I would support that too. The one thing I want to say is it feels a little ironic to me. We're going to great efforts to collect these little archaeological things that may be important when the biggest historic remnant is literally the house, is the 1909 build. So just putting out there, when that's demolished, it's gone. And I'm struggling. We're going to great lengths to collect little things from the ground, and we're like actually actively getting rid of something that we can never get back.
Would it be appropriate to ask for, I don't know, some extra time to see if we could find someone that would be interested in that structure? Or, I mean, because I don't know. I mean, you're right. It's really sad that we're letting this Burnham structure just go like this. But
I think it would be appropriate to not right now in this meeting, but to have this conversation with the homeowner, see what their level of support and interest is as you're trying to identify people to work with it. At any rate, I think that I mean, it's a simple thing to, anytime you see any non-dirt item, to simply have a box that you put stuff in or whatever on site. But I think, so far, I think that the homeowner's been very cooperative in many other areas and may find this interesting. But I think as we find other people that want to be involved, and maybe that relationship will be between the homeowner and those folks. The Historical Society, I'm certain, maybe they want to be involved. I'm sure that there is a whole group of people that are interested in in Burnham artifacts and Burnham history. I think, you know, it's we're opening the door, and it'll be interesting to see who comes through.
I mean, is it worth, Burnham is a significant architect. A number of significant architects have worked in Evanston, and I'm sure this body has approved additions to homes by Van Doren Shaw and others. Mm-hmm. Have we ever asked, I think what you're asking of anyone else, because I think, okay.
No.
I think that's something that we should keep.
But this is,
Yeah.
but this is demolition. This isn't just an addition to an existing.
No, but it's about the excavation.
Yeah, it's the excavation.
I mean, we're
And the
gonna
demolition.
remove the house, that we that's there, we can see that. I think what you're talking about is like, you're gonna like, now we're gonna excavate a little bit on the north,
Right.
where we're not just removing the house and we don't know what we're gonna find. Have we ever asked another homeowner of a significant, who owned a home by a significant architect, who's doing an addition and therefore excavating, to do exactly what you're asking?
Well, I think this is different because I think that there are there could be something that's discovered that relates to that, is the Burnham era and the estate. And there is going to be a lot of disruption in that fill when you demolish the house and the, yes.
No, it's process. You know, they're going to dig the foundations for that house with heavy equipment. And if you want to treat it as an archaeological site, what you're asking is that it be hand dug by people who are looking through or looking at every shovel of earth that they take out of there. I mean, what are we actually asking the homeowner to do?
I don't think
I mean, over the years, we have asked for things not relating to like the significance of the architect, but like we've asked for people to maintain tiles in case a future owner wants to, totally restore things. Like I think adding something that says something to the effect of, the owners are going to, in good faith, take every opportunity to maintain any historical items that are found during the excavation. And I think that's as far as we could really reasonably go.
Can I ask one question? Say some significant artifacts are found. Who owns them?
I think the homeowners do.
Yeah, the homeowners do. Carl's original question was, should we consider some sort of condition? And I just don't know how far we want to take that. There was one question about maybe having some as-built.
Yes.
As a condition. That sounds fine to me. So is there some version of an excavation that we can ask them to do, which is a little bit more sensitive than a normal excavation without being in there with a,
No, I know, we're not doing a full-blown archaeological dig.
No, yeah. But
I don't have that expertise and so I would like to ask someone what that would be, what that potential, right? I mean, because I don't know how to put that condition in words right now.
Kate, is that something we can do?
I mean, again, you apply conditions if you don't think the standards are met without them. So, the only thing that I would feel strongly comfortable with is something like, the homeowner demonstrates a good faith effort to engage with an expert in the field and understand if the process is feasible or something for them. It has to work for them.
Yeah.
But if they're required to at least demonstrate that they have reached out to someone engaged in what that process looks like, and then made a determination on whether that's feasible or not, I think that I just don't know how else.
The standard read, this is number 13, right, for construction on page 3. Every reasonable effort shall be made to protect and preserve archaeological resources affected by or adjacent to any project. So if they get a certificate of appropriateness, we're gonna expect them to stick to that. So is there something that needs to be said about a condition to sort of amplify that particular standard?
I think it's at least very worthwhile to elaborate on what that means, because someone can interpret that as meaning the discovery of human remains, and anything else is garbage.
That's usually what it is.
So if you're extrapolating and telling them more specifically what types of things to keep an eye out for and treat with sensitivity, I think that's worthwhile.
But that's not something we can do. That would be something that somebody like this.
No, I mean, if you say, if human-made artifacts are discovered, then they're set aside. That's what you're asking is to like define what's a reasonable effort. We're trying to like process. Yeah. So, I mean, I think if they have a conversation with the contractor and they understand that it's not going to be hand dug and it's not going to be roped off with, examined with brushes, but as work proceeds, care will be taken to discern human-made artifacts, and they'll be set aside for the Historical Society. I mean, we have that. I don't know how far we want to go here. That seems reasonable. Like being a little bit more specific about what's reasonable seems.
Yeah, like seems reasonable. I mean, like for instance, asking them to have some kind of provision for like a acid-free box or something like that stuff goes into. Something. I mean, I don't know. Does that seem too detailed?
I don't think an acid-free box would have any importance at this kind of a site. They're pulling it out of the ground.
Well, I mean, that's an archival safe type of thing. I mean, that's what I had when we were excavating at my house. We had a acid-free archive, professional box that we set aside. We had off to the side, and when they were pulling things out of the ground, they put them in that box. But I don't know. I mean, maybe we just say, look, you need to be extra reasonable. Please be extra reasonable.
Observant.
Extra observant. And not just keep yourself to the minimum, which is human remains. Amanda?
I think your presentation shows a willingness to engage on that. I think that we can find language pretty easily to meet these the spirit of what you guys are talking about.
That could be worked out with Kate. We don't need to author. Right?
Yeah,
that's right.
Well, we already have language which says every reasonable effort shall be made to protect and preserve archaeological resources affected by or adjacent to any property.
Yeah, but usually the archaeological resources.
You want to be more specific, so what are you suggesting?
Well, usually in archaeological resources are assumed to be human remains. That's the only thing that the law triggers. So what we would do in this case is just ask that archaeological resources be more than just human remains if there's things that are made by human beings.
Including.
Well,
here's a question. And then what it is.
Do we know when the landfill was actually done, when that site was built up? Because if we do, then, and it was built up after the turn of the century, then it's been raised so high, the probability of finding Indian artifacts is very high.
I think it's the fill itself that is of consequence, is that what they use to fill the site and where it came from and what it contains.
They built a wall, they built a big wall, and then they backfilled.
Yeah. So no, I think what Matthew was describing, and I found that fairly compelling, is the fact that we could find some stuff related to the Burnham occupation there.
I'm sorry, related to the Burnham.
I'm sorry, related to the Burnham occupation there that could be of interest. We don't know what that is. We know what's there right now is heavily compromised, but we don't know what's in the ground. And so if we just ask them to please, pay attention to the archaeological remains and to be a little bit more sensitive than the minimum required by law.
I think we should be explicit about man-made. I think that was your thoughts. I think that makes sense. Man-made items, so not just remains. I think we can be explicit.
So you just, like Charles was saying, you just add the words including man-made.
Human-made.
Human-made.
Yeah.
objects. Or,
Yeah,
for standard 13, right?
For standard 13, yeah. That, I think, we can't predict what Matthew would say if he were here, so whatever, but I feel comfortable with that. And I would also reiterate what has already been said, that some as-built would be great, just in case.
Somewhat.
As-built.
Drawings of the existing structure as it is now.
Okay.
Documenting what's there. Plans, sections, elevations, somebody carefully measures and produces drawings.
Are you talking about the whole, the
I'm just
entire
defining
house?
as-built. I'm not sure what everybody wants drawn.
The whole house or just the T?
I was referring just to the T house.
Yeah, so we should be.
I think that as-built should be a condition for any demolition. We've just never had a demolition as far as I've been in the
Well, given what's there, as an architect and a historian, my interest would be to have a reconstruction of the original Burnham building, because as-built of the thing that's there, it's sorry, it's a piece of junk.
Well, I guess the point is,
Architecturally.
it's about to be gone, to Amanda's point. It's about to be gone.
Yeah.
It's
And
about
so
to be gone.
the minimum, and I think this is reasonable and probably already done, is to record what's there. And I think
Yeah,
it's
because
just-
especially because we do not have original
Yeah, right.
plans
Right,
for.
Okay, so
So-
we've settled on that,
Yes.
and working out some explicit language, or maybe we've already just got it, about what we mean by archaeological remains. Are there any other conditions that you had in mind, Carl?
That's what I had.
I mean, are there any parts of it we can save from the building itself that would make sense? That would be samples or, something, materials?
Yeah,
If
so
you show up on site, they may hand you something.
I'm sure.
So,
Yeah, you're probably right.
I mean, this is a very reasonable question that you're asking, and projects that I've had in the past, we've invited members of the community, history center, whatever, in this case, to come to the site and say, we would like to salvage this dental molding or whatever. And if we ask the owners to make it accessible to, whatchamacallit isn't around anymore.
No, the deconstruction center, is that what you're talking about?
Yes, yeah, the building exchange isn't around, but maybe the history center would like to come and have a look. I don't know what their capacity is for holding on to objects like this, but that is what I have done in the past when I've been involved as a consultant with demolitions, is make it, ask the owner to make it accessible so that people can come and salvage things if they want to.
All right.
Doesn't mean that anything is going to be salvaged,
Right.
only that we ask the owner to make it accessible, to create an opportunity for historians or whatever, whoever it is that we say, history center maybe, to come and have a look and see if there's anything that they would like to hold on
I
to.
think that's a great idea.
That's not onerous. I think that's totally reasonable.
Yeah, and if the history center decides that they don't have a way of holding on to it or whatever, then that's, separate from us, but at least we're asking the owner to do this. So there would be as-built, there would be a little bit more elaboration about what we mean by archaeological resources, and some, we'll say, community outreach in terms of salvaging pieces of this building.
Reasonable access. So,
Yeah.
now will that require pre-contact with the owner to come on site? You just want people just walking?
No, I mean, the only thing that makes me nervous about this is we're telling them they have to let people walk. And they're saying,
No, I think what you were saying is we have a set time for that.
Well, they would do it however they want.
Yeah,
They could
however they
provide
want.
Pictures, whatever. We asked them to make we talked about reasonable effort in the standard for review, so we could ask them to make a reasonable effort to find an opportunity for salvage. Can I just say one other thing for the as-built? What's going to happen to the as-built?
I would have them sent to the
History
center.
Okay, I think we should first ask the history center if they're prepared to receive them.
So this is how it's been. Is how it's been handled in the past too. In my experience, as we say, we ask them to create the as-built, and then we ask them to ask the history center, the library, maybe ETHS or whatever.
Or the Burnham Library.
Burnham Library, yeah, and like we say, that there needs to be some, so I don't think that we should ask them to create as-built and
So we
then
can
not
say-
have some repository.
So we can ask for as-built to be produced, and then some historical repository could take them, or, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Is what-
it doesn't seem right to just have.
Just to mandate, say, it shall go
Right.
to this location, just that
The
it,
resource center at the Evanston History Center will for sure take them. And there's a very good chance that Nathaniel Parks, who is now head of a new Art Institute Department of Archives, which is separate from the Ryerson and Burnham Library, would also be willing to take a set of drawings.
Yeah, we talked about this when Ryan Field came up too, is, making sure that there's some, something accessible. That seems fair to me, and again, it's a reasonable effort.
Yeah, his hand-drawn sections.
I mean, we're not
His
mandating
hand-drawn
halves
sections
or
were informative.
And we're not requiring anybody to take it.
documentation, right?
We're not requiring anybody to take it.
Could just be online.
It could,
The as-built will include photographs,
Yes.
high-resolution photography.
yeah, I mean, I don't know that we have to get into but there are standards for that.
I know.
Have standards for that, but
Well, I
that's,
mean, it just depends on what level of documentation we're
So-
requesting. I mean, HAB's documentation is large
Yeah,
format
no,
camera,
no.
and I'm not think we're gonna ask
No,
for
no,
large
no.
format camera
no.
documentation of this.
As-bills were, Lisa, the as-bills drawings
Yes,
and a photo of each facade?
yes. And I mean, it would be lovely if they took photos during, demolition. But again, I believe Chris Hartzell was the one who started this concept in my brain, at least, as of wanting as-built from the Evanston History Center.
Okay.
So you're all aware that to hire somebody, send them out there and have them make as-built drawings of that house. And it's not a big house, but it's still a few days worth of work and then maybe a couple of days worth of time to make digital drawings from the measurements and the notes. So you're actually spending maybe $5,000 of time for an architect to go out there and make those drawings.
Well,
I mean, we do
first-
this all the
well,
time
first
for
of all,
our addition projects.
First of all, they've probably already done the majority of this because they've put together all these drawings. So they've gone out and field measured and stuff. So I'm not sure we're asking too much. Is my opinion.
Again, we're talking about not just the tea room, but the whole house.
I'm talking about just the tea room.
Just the burn.
But I mean, the tea room isn't there anymore. The foundations are there and the roof timbers are there. So what is it that we want to?
I think we could draw a rectangle around what was the original building that we're all talking about and just have that drawn.
Well, that's what I was saying. I think it'd be valuable to have somebody spend the time with photographs and measurements to do a reconstruction of what had been there. But that's very different from what you guys are all talking about.
Right, I think we're just talking about documenting in drawing form, elevations and a plan
Of the house.
of what's there.
Yeah.
Of the four walls of the shelter house.
It's 3 walls, but yeah.
3 walls.
Three walls. Okay, so we have 3 conditions.
We
Why
do.
do you want those? They're not original.
Yeah. I mean, is everyone clear on the 3?
Yes.
All right. So then, any other discussion? Otherwise, we can go to us.
So writing up a little bit more language about what we mean by the archaeological conditions,
So it's
as-built drawings, and what was,
As-built packet, we'll say, with drawings and photos.
and the last thing was
Reasonable access.
reasonable access for elements of the building as it's demolished. Okay.
And that packet of as-bills would be make a reasonable effort to offer it to some repository.
Final motion that's on the floor. I lost track.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Was that a motion?
I'm just.
No, that was just clarifying.
That's,
since
I
we
think
can go
that's,
back and forth.
the motion was made and these are now
Three
amendments
conditions.
to that motion.
Right,
So
right.
now we're gonna be voting on all of that together.
I second that.
Could somebody state the motion and the amendments so we're all absolutely clear what we're voting on?
Okay. So you made the motion to approve 25 Pres 0134 111 Burnham Place. And we then added 3 conditions. The one condition is for construction standard 13, including man-made objects. Human-made objects. The second condition is for what we're calling an as-is built packet of measured drawings and photography of all facades of the 1909 structure. And the third condition is for the homeowners to make an effort to have the public accessible to the site for any salvaging of any, yes.
So for the as-built, let's just make sure that there's also the reasonable effort to offer them to some major repositories such as the Evanston Public Library, the Burnham Library in Chicago. And then I don't know if the salvage is really the public so much as it is like History Center and like meaningful people, not just random.
Well, not opening it up to the entire.
Right. So I just, since we're trying to clarify.
Yep.
It's a good thing.
All right. It's okay, do you want to call?
Are we, did that clarify for you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just to be clear, this is the vote for demolish and building,
Correct.
both.
Yeah.
There is this combined thing,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, do you want to call a roll call vote?
You want to do roll call? Chair Klein?
No.
Commissioner Bose Carlson?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Zine?
No.
Commissioner Cohen?
Aye.
Commissioner Greller?
Aye.
Commissioner Elman?
Yes.
Commissioner Rizzola?
Yes.
6-2, the motion carries.
So now we can move on to new business. We have 26 Pres 0002 1505 Ashland Avenue.
Okay, we have a 10-minute presentation. Good evening, my name is Danielle Ballou. I am the owner of the small architectural firm in Chicago called Ballou. I'm here with my colleague Melanie Mosterski, and we're here on behalf of some homeowners at 1505 Ashland Avenue. That's between Grove and Lake. We're here to propose a small 2-story addition to their single-family home. The home is not in a landmark district, though the house itself is landmarked. It was built in 1877. The architect is unknown. The architectural designation is a gable front house, And it's worth noting that all the historical features and architectural details are associated with the front of the house and will be preserved with the proposed addition. So here you can see the demo site plan. The original home is here in the middle. There was a front porch built in 1916. There's an existing 2-story addition at the back, an existing 1-story addition at the south. We are proposing to remove and replace the walkway to the north and remove a portion of the roof and exterior wall here to make room for the addition. Here's our proposed site plan. You can see that the proposed 2-story wood framed addition with basement is rather small. It's about 95 square feet in terms of footprint, and it is set back 20 feet from the front facade. Here's an exterior view of the existing west facade from Ashland Avenue. So you can see that original gable roof here in the 1916 front porch. This is quite difficult to see. It's just saying what I meant. Here you can see this view is taken a few steps to the north here so that you can see this 2-story addition on the north facade. Views of the east facade from the alleyway are mostly blocked by a 6-foot-high wooden fence. But if we were to step inside the property line, you can see that existing 2-story back addition here and the 1-story addition to the south here. Our proposed rendering shows that 2-story addition to the north. This picture on the left shows that existing north facade with our proposed addition here. The south facade is to remain unchanged, as is the west facade here. In terms of the demo plans, we are proposing to remove several vinyl windows along this north facade, as well as a portion of the exterior wall and roof here to make way for the addition. These are the proposed plans which show the new footprint of the addition here makes way for some storage in the lower level, a new dining room on the ground level. The size of this addition is really set by the size of the dining table and the circulation required around it, while still maintaining our 5-foot side setback. On the upper level, we will be expanding an existing laundry room. And I should point out in the dining room, we'll be adding windows along the east and the west facades. On the upper level, the existing laundry room will be expanded, and we'll be adding a small study or home office. Again, we are adding new windows on the east and west facade. On the roof plan, you can see that the top of the addition roof will be aligning with the ridge of the existing 2-story back addition. Here is the existing west elevation on the left. So again, you can see that original gable front roof has an 8 to 12 pitch, and there is the 1-story addition on the south with a 3 to 12 pitch. On the right, you can see our proposed addition ties into the back roof ridge line and has a 3 to 12 pitch to match that 1-story addition on the south. I should also point out that we are intending to match all the existing painted wood siding, window trim, stucco parging, the existing frieze, fascia, and corner boards, and the new windows will have decorative grills to match the west elevation. On the east elevation, you can see again the existing on the left side. So here's that existing 2-story back addition. It also has an 8 to 12 pitch, but is set lower than the front roof line. And here you can see that 1-story addition here. Here's our 2-story addition on the north. The south elevation, this is the existing elevation and it will remain unchanged. This is the existing north elevation. You can see that there are 2 wood windows with decorative grills towards the front of the house, and the rest of the windows are vinyl. Our proposed addition intends to preserve those 2 front wood windows with decorative grills. The north facade that we found the addition will not have new windows, but we are adding them at the east and the west facade. The reason that that north facade does not have any new windows is that we would be looking at, this would be the view from the dining room. So we're right along that property line looking at unkept garages on the adjacent properties. How can I go back?
Okay.
One more, thank you. We don't feel that this blank facade would negatively impact the landmarked house or the neighborhood in particular. That north facade is not very visible from either public way. So here's Ashland Avenue and here's the alley. You have to get a pretty oblique angle to view that facade. You can see this is the rendering. That little sliver is the north facade from Ashland, and you get the north facade from the public alleyway. We also want to point out that the existing southern facade has about half of it has no windows in it currently. So we feel like the north facade design is in keeping with the existing character. In terms of the roof design, as I mentioned, the historic gable roof at the front, the original is an 8 to 12 pitch. The existing 2-story addition at the back is also 8 to 12, but it's set lower than the original roof. The existing 1-story addition on the south has a shed roof with a slope of 3 to 12, and the proposed addition has a shed roof with a slope of 3 to 12. We selected a shed roof to better blend with the historical gable roof at the front. It allows for a similar profile and rake from the street. Again, because it's set back 20 feet, it minimizes the impact to that historic front facade and maintains the appearance of the gable roof line. We did look at making this potentially a gable roof and tying in perpendicularly to the original structure, but this would actually make the massing quite different from the street, and you would see asphalt shingles as a kind of a dominant feature of the facade, which didn't feel like it was in keeping with the historic structure. It would sort of make it a quasi gable L house, but at the wrong scale in many ways. So let's see. It would also be really complex in terms of the structural and water management conditions to tie into the lower roof at the back. Could you go back one slide, please? Thank you. The pitch of the roof is really set by, we're trying to tie into that ridge line of the lower back addition. And also the lower roof line is set by trying to maximize the ceiling height within this upper level addition so that they get the most usable space that they can get. We looked at tying it into the pitch, the ridge of the original house, but we felt like it actually took away from the character of the main house even more, and it created some complex conditions at the back where we would have to consider extending the roof line to the other side, which would be a costly intervention. In terms of the materials, we plan to match all of the existing materials. So this is the existing painted wood siding, the existing stucco parging, the trims around the window, and not featured here is the corner boards and fascia that we would also be matching. The windows on the west elevation are wood exterior, wood interior, with decorative grills, as are the 2 windows on the north facade that I mentioned we'll be preserving. All the other windows at the property are vinyl double hung without decorative grills, other than there are some aluminum clad wood exterior, wood interior, sliding glass doors at the back deck. So we are proposing vinyl windows, double hung windows with decorative grills to match that front west elevation. So in terms of the application for a certificate of appropriateness, we selected 3 standards from the binding review standards that we believe are most relevant to our proposal. The first is the relationship of materials and texture. The materials and texture on the exterior of the new addition will match the materials and texture on the existing house exterior. The second is original qualities. The gable front facade and architectural details of noted landmark significance will remain unchanged by the addition. The addition is set back 20 feet from the front facade to minimize impact to the landmark features. Additionally, it's worth noting that the original home was built for a working class family with the intention of meeting their day-to-day needs. The proposal respects this intent of the vernacular. The addition allows for a current working class family to adapt a 149-year-old home to meet their modern needs. So the clients they both work from home while raising their 2 young kids, so it necessitates more room for another dedicated office. And then the third standard being new addition. So the new addition is set back 20 feet from the front facade, and should it be removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the gable front would not be impaired.
Great, thank you. Any questions, commissioners?
So the windows that are on the front facade, those are vinyl?
The windows on the front facade are actually wood exterior, wood interior. They're not original to the home. They were placed, I think, in like 2018 before the homeowners purchased the property in 2022.
So the window that you see on both windows you see on the 2-story addition are going to be vinyl or wood?
We were proposing them to be vinyl to match all the other vinyl windows in the house, but do insert the decorative grills to match the wood windows in the front.
And when you say decorative grills, is it
Yes.
simulated divided light, or is it? Okay.
It is, yeah, and the ones that are currently on the west facade are, they're
Are they
like
similar?
Marvin Ultimate or, wood exterior, wood interior, with the decorative.
So what was the the climate guard windows? Are those on the?
Everywhere.
Oh, they're everywhere.
Yeah,
Okay.
except for those wooden windows on the west facade, and there are 2 on the north facade. You can go to the elevations and maybe to point out which are. So if you can go to the elevations a little bit earlier. Okay, those. So these 2 windows on the north elevation are wooden, and then all the windows on the west elevation are wooden. Every other window is vinyl.
Okay. Any other questions?
Sorry, Kate, will you go back to the front elevation? Thank you.
Oh, that's the back.
Are the proportions of those windows on the addition seen anywhere else?
Can you go to the north elevation? I think it's a couple slides ahead. So there are these tall windows that are within their living room that are similar proportion to what we're proposing at the dining room. The windows that we're proposing on the upper level are kind of a unique proportion, and that's set by the fact that we would have a counter within the laundry room, so we need to get it above the counter height. And then similar for the home office, they're going to have a desk right in front of the window, so we're trying to kind of meet the modern needs of what those spaces are used for.
Kate, could you go back and we'll look at it again? So on the ground floor in the addition here, the wide window, is that's
This one here.
right. The proportion, does everyone?
It's a wider window.
A little wider, yeah.
Yeah, so was that your question?
Yes.
Yeah, so is there any other place where there's that wide window?
Probably not quite as wide as that. If you go to the back elevation, I think it's maybe most seen in the sliders here. You can see the proportion of these sliding glass doors and the transom create a similar overall proportion.
Is the head and the sill the same as the
Yes.
front living room? It's just wider?
Yes, correct.
And did you look at making it the same so that the front elevation and the front of your addition were similar?
Our goal here was really to maximize how much sunlight we were bringing into the space, so we certainly could make the window narrower to make it more similar to the proportion in the living room. It just would bring in a little less light.
Could you put a window, you said you have no windows on the north side though?
Mm-hmm.
I know it's because there's an ugly something next to it, but you could still, it would bring in light, they could put a window treatment, or you don't just have to get the light from that front window, I guess is what I'm saying. You have like a lot of space to add a window there.
The building on the north, you said, was a one-story garage?
It's a series of them, and they're all dilapidated.
So the second floor is kind of looking down on them.
Yes.
And first, the dining room's looking at them.
Right, because the fence line is about 6 foot high there, and then you're seeing about like, I don't know, another 6 feet or so of unkempt facade and literally broken windows and trash like within this chain link fenced area. So you can imagine they're creating this beautiful new dining room and space for their family to expand into, and it's not exactly something you want to look out at.
Yeah, I mean, I think using you're very sensitive to the existing materials and the overall window shapes and proportions, and the way you're tying in the addition roof, the geometry makes perfect sense. I think the only thing that you're gonna hear is, it's not an ill-advised thing, but it'd be kind of nice for the windows to match, but houses have, there's lots of different kinds of windows, so I don't think it's a big deal. And then at the top, super minor, but if you did because your sill on the second floor lines up with the muntin in the middle, like if you just had one divided, one vertical, then it would just kind of look like the top sash of the other double hungs.
Yeah.
It would just kind of
feel
feel
like a casement window instead of a double hung.
But otherwise, I think it's a nice addition.
I mean, we have a precedent here. We had not long ago, an addition that was sticking off the side that had no windows, and we asked them to just put a window in that matched the others. And in this particular case, I agree that generally we encounter buildings that have different kinds of windows, but in this particular case, this is a landmark, not a contributor to a district. And it's actually pretty consistent on the front, and then you have this quite wide thing, and it's only 20 feet back as opposed to the other one, which was much farther back where we required it. Also, I feel like there's got to be some creative solution for the other side as opposed to
a transom window or something so that you don't have a full picture
just
window.
Feels like
you have them in dining rooms all the time.
Yeah,
and
there's transoms both on the front and the back.
Just a high horizontal window.
Yeah, you could do some kind of, the kind of window that has kind of flex in it so that you can't see out. It would bring an enormous amount of light in. It feels like an all or nothing solution on the side where it's just like flat in a building that actually has quite a large number of windows.
I can't remember, did the roof plan show a skylight in the office?
Yes, sorry, thank you for bringing that up.
I agree. I think the larger window seems pretty out of place.
Yeah.
And we're probably talking about
the main floor,
5-inch floors.
Yeah, that would not be a problem to.
You explained where the roof pitch on the shed roof on the addition came from, but just looking at the drawings, I'm wondering if there's any way that you can match the eave line of the existing house rather than have it be higher. You match the heads of the windows. If you steepen that pitch slightly, it looks like you could. Unless I'm misunderstanding the headroom condition at the outside wall, it looks like you could align the gutter and the eave of the addition with the existing house.
We can bring it. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I believe she was saying that they wanted to keep the same pitch, and so,
Same pitch as
the other
one story on the
side.
other side.
as
Yeah.
the little bump out on the other side.
Yeah, and so as a result, that
Does
might be-
anybody think that little bump out on the other side is significant enough to mirror on the
I mean,
large addition?
Yeah,
I mean, I think she said herself that it's for ceiling height, just to make
yeah.
it more spacious. I mean, I think we're looking at an elevation. I think it's helpful to look at a perspective to see how much you really perceive that.
Well, we should go back one. So that's the relationship that I'm asking about, which you can see very clearly in that drawing.
We can drop down this edge of the roof a little bit. We've been working with our structural engineer to figure out how these two roof structures are gonna meet. And we don't have, Melanie, correct me if I'm wrong, but we can't quite drop it down all the way because we'd be like below 7 foot ceiling height.
On the
within
inside.
Study.
What's the headroom in the adjacent areas?
In your bedrooms on the front of the house.
Where's
7
the
feet.
top plate of the wall?
Do you remember what it is?
What is it where?
What the ceiling height is?
At the front of the house, at the edge, it's 7.2 right now.
7.2.
Yeah.
Does it go up to a collar tie or something? Or is it just, I mean,
It's just a clip ceiling, right?
Yes.
It's just a clip ceiling.
Yeah.
But it'd be nice to do that, I mean, to carry it through perhaps the addition, because in the laundry room, like you said, there's desks and stuff along and countertops, so 7.2 ceiling wouldn't really affect your use except.
Perhaps we could extend the eave a little bit more and try to negotiate so it can come down a little bit lower. We have to look at the geometry to see how it works, but then it wouldn't match the overhang of the existing.
If you pull that eave down, it's gonna have to come pretty far at that slope.
Maybe we can mix between the two.
Yeah,
Get
I mean,
somewhere close
but
to
it is, there's something awkward, and I thought maybe it was the wide window, and I think the narrow window would help. Maybe if it just had the narrow window, would you feel more comfortable, or would you?
Keep the slope as it
Yeah,
is?
keep it as it is and just narrow
have
the
a narrow
window. And maybe that would be enough, but maybe what we're looking at is this kind of discontinuity in like 3 or 4 different elements.
Right.
I think there's something with the roof.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I noticed.
Oh, really?
Before the window, I was like, that roof line is very.
I saw the window first, so it's but it's fine.
Is there the model, the render, the model view from the front?
From the street?
From the street.
Yeah, let's see that.
Yeah, I just find that we end up fixating on the elevations, and these are the.
No, perspective would help.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's.
Still looks.
Lake Charles Moore used to refer to those as saddlebag additions.
Yeah. Yeah, those little things on the side. We have one.
Which is a good description. I'm not sure it's necessarily complimentary, but
it's a good.
But saddlebags have utility for modern living?
I think the 312 roof is fine the way it is. I don't think it's worth requiring.
I think they would probably be able to get away with it, especially from the street, if the windows were a little bit more kind of harmonious.
Well, how about just matched, which is what you were suggesting? Match the front windows.
And on the second floor.
And the second, what you
I
said
like
about
your
the second
addition,
floor.
your comment of just the single to match the top of the other windows.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, and
You
as an
know,
architect,
sort of looking at the way that thing comes off the side and the pitch, you know, did you investigate volumetrically what would happen if you made that a gable end?
She did.
Yeah,
she did.
Oh, I'm
She
sorry.
talked about it.
I didn't hear it.
And she thought it looked like a truncated gable L house.
It
just had more presence than
It's a very short addition.
It's okay.
It makes that front elevation actually like this.
And she also said it's very complicated for water, flashing everything.
So we're meeting like 3 different roof planes.
But I would be very open to putting some windows in that other facade, something
Well, high ones, it would bring in light.
Yeah, to give you some light.
Without
Would it be sufficient
view.
if we added them at the upper level? Yeah, like a study and laundry room and left the ground level, which is even harder to see from the public ways.
The upper level was a laundry room extension and a bedroom
It's a
extension.
study.
It's a study.
Study.
I mean, I think in terms of the standard, her response was that, the south side of the house has a fair amount of windowless wall. The north side has conditions that make windows. This, to me, is dealer's choice. This is not a make or break.
And it's also really, really difficult to see this from
To
the
see
public
it,
way.
yeah, a funny angle.
Yeah, I wasn't suggesting that she had to do it. It's just that if they want to have more light.
Sure, I agree.
it
Well,
would be-
I think it was a condition that, because we're potentially asking for a narrow window in the front,
Right.
we're trying to allow
Right.
for more light
Exactly.
in another location.
Yeah, so I am indicating that if you wanted to put some windows in here that didn't necessarily allow a view, but brought in light in order to compensate for the skinnier windows on the narrower facades, then I would be okay with that, but we would just have to talk about what that is, since it's not on the drawing.
Sure.
Can I
The
speak to
homeowners
this?
One, I would not have an issue with narrowing that window. If we needed to do that, I have no issue with that. The garages are actually 2-story garages. Like, they are very large, and there are like 3 of them. So putting any windows in that dining room, we're literally like any window on that wall are looking into very old, unkept garages.
Even if the sill's
But
above
no
eye
issue
level.
with adjustments to that lower window.
Because she's saying that since it's 2 stories, even if it's
Do you
above
see
eye
the
level,
roof?
when you're looking up, you're still seeing it. I mean,
It's a minor thing.
I wouldn't make it a condition of approval, but if it were my house, I would put some windows there with some
There you go.
Some light filtering
Some
shades.
light filtering
Thank you,
shades.
Sarah.
Yeah.
We were all wondering what Sarah was doing.
No, the point is to try to be flexible with these folks because we're asking
for
them
that.
as a condition to narrow this window. So if they don't want to put windows there, that's fine, unless everybody else would be, no, absolutely, you can't have windows, so.
I think it's a very sensitive addition and a very complete set of drawings that makes it easy to understand the project.
Yeah, I do appreciate your annotations on the drawings.
Yeah.
So it's very
Yep.
helpful.
Come back.
So if we're asking for a window commensurate with the other windows on the front side for the main floor, how are we feeling about the second floor window? I mean, I understand.
It was what he was saying before.
Making it a casement window with one vertical grill, eliminating the double hung horizontals of it.
So matching
So that's
the
not
front
a
of the house,
not a
second floor
mini
from the
top
house.
floor. Yeah.
Sorry.
And then,
What about the,
It would
can you
just
look
be
at the
like-
back facade?
Yes.
too?
yeah, so I was gonna ask
Yeah.
about this. So on the back, on the back, we were required.
It's a long meeting. I'm sorry we're getting.
So if
They're
we're,
gonna see it, but it looks like
if we're asking
second
about
floor windows.
if we're asking as a condition on the front, are we also asking for the condition on the back?
I just say right off the bat that we would match the window at
Yeah,
the front
okay.
because we would want them to be
Yeah,
symmetrical.
yeah, that would be really good.
Alright.
Oh, I got the upper level?
So the decorative, I think
So
Melanie was
this-
asking about none of the other windows throughout the house have the decorative grills. We were proposing that the addition windows have the decorative grills to match the.
I think
the
this
front.
is-
Well, I'm asking, do we wanna do the single vertical decorative, no middle, cause that's kind of out of place at this point.
Because it doesn't relate to.
In the mirror addition, because
I think
there's
it
no other
makes
window
sense.
has.
Relates on the
Yeah.
interior of the room.
And it only has a horizontal, actually, there's no vertical of the upper windows at the back facade.
Right.
Those are double hung vinyl.
Yeah, we're concerned about
I'm sorry.
It's
Things stuck in the side.
Are you
I don't
removing-
recall.
Are you removing a window there too, on the back? Is that
There's
filling?
one window being
Mhm.
removed on the back facade. Yes, it's gonna be a closet for the primary bedroom now.
Is there a way to just keep like to fill in the window and just have it, you know, like a ghost of the window.
I asked about that on a previous project and everybody guffawed a la Tom 5 minutes ago. So everyone's quiet when Carl says it.
I hate this
where-
Would you like me to?
This is an existing wall on the upper level. Right now, there's a weird little nook, which is where Holly has her desk for her work from home right now in her bedroom. So we are planning to extend that wall so that this becomes their closet, and that lands right in the middle of that existing window. This is already the minimum dimension that we can really get away with to be a usable closet.
We literally had this exact same
We
situation.
did.
It was a closet
We did.
with no window, and you guys were okay with it. Now, the difference here, and I asked about having a window in order to have some symmetry. The difference here is that they're removing a window.
Right.
Right? Isn't that what your question was about?
Yeah, that they're removing it.
So the difference between that situation and this one is it's removing
Because
the
there's a
window.
wall that's, yeah,
I personally am okay with that since it's the rear facade.
that's fine.
If they were talking about the front facade,
Yeah.
we'd be having a different conversation.
I'm just curious, how much would you have to jog the wall to miss it? Like, just north or just east of the door?
This way, we probably have to,
Well, you're taking square footage of
bring
the
it
bedroom.
out like a foot at least
It'd be
into
a
the
little
bedroom.
awkward, right?
Yeah, it's gonna create a strange nook where they can't really use that part of the room.
I'm okay with it.
In terms of the windows, whatever they look like, I don't recall ever opposing vinyl windows in this commission.
So do you want to speak to that, or?
Well, I can speak to a few things, but I mean, the standards relate to the design vocabulary of the existing building. So vinyl windows have been approved by myself when they replace vinyl windows. And I think it's a decent argument to make if they're related to existing vinyl windows. I mean, that's how the standards speak to that. The kind of nuance here is that those windows, not any fault of the homeowner, were replaced without approval at some point in time. I don't think they should be responsible for the actions of somebody who did that before them. But it's certainly an unfortunate history for the home.
But the windows that are on the front facade are wood windows,
Correct.
and they're proposing similar windows with like the style.
Yeah, I don't think that, and I've not done vinyl windows with, and I'm not sure there will be simulated divided lights. I think it's gonna be totally against pocket. I would make the argument that if spend a couple $100 more and get a Marvin elevator or something with a simulated divided light for just the ones on the west, the ones on the back if you had.
They're open
I mean, the issue with the vinyl windows is that the profiles are very different and they're much heavier because the vinyl simply doesn't have the same strength characteristics of the wood window. So the issue for me would be to understand where the new vinyl windows are going in relation to a facade that already has vinyl windows, so that you would minimize the kind of different in terms of how the windows would look. And I don't think I understand that yet on your project.
I'm happy to.
It's on the front facade that we were looking
So
at.
the front is all wood.
The front facade of the addition, those are.
Those two windows
Those
should
two
have
windows.
profiles that are real close to the others.
Yeah.
Match the front of your house.
Yeah. And I just think you're gonna see the difference.
Yeah, I think from our.
Yeah, the
just
vinyl's a lot
speak
thicker.
For myself, I think from our perspective, like it is our absolute desire that we also maintain that like integrity, that appeal, and if we would not be able to find something that aligns with that, we would also be in favor if we would spend more to maintain that.
Your Marvin's not gonna get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, or without endorsing a particular product,
sorry.
just something.
It's okay,
we use marks.
I've only seen one decent looking
Well, just,
vinyl
you
window
know
in my
what
whole
it
life.
is. I think you're
And I don't even remember the
So
product.
just
but it was
the simulated divided light, that's where they have like
most of
inside,
In
it's an
theory,
insert that's.
There's a grill on the outside, a grill on the
There's
inside.
Okay.
and there's a
And then there's
space
that-
make it in the
Okay.
shape they want.
Right. But the
problem
I think what
is
your
it's
concern is
ends
the
up being a lot
vinyl
easier
windows
than
do not have that
other
similar.
materials.
They have a different
windows.
Right, they
profile
have-
and they're thicker.
Right. And so that's why you're asking for the front to be tall. Yeah.
Isn't the vinyl kind of a flat look too? Is that, am I thinking of?
Different profile.
Yeah, okay.
If they're willing to, I think we just say, go ahead and use at least aluminum clad wood windows. I mean, that's what we've done historically. Oftentimes, when it's, when it's related.
Or fiberglass.
Yeah.
Or fiberglass.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're fine with that. I mean, it's 4 windows total, and we also want to preserve the character of that from the side, so I
And
think
then
that's an easy, like, narrowing the window and modifying the upper level window to match.
We have a basement window, would that be okay to stay as vinyl?
Where?
You can't really
Oh,
see.
yeah, sorry, I didn't point that
It's on
out.
the
It's a
north
window well
elevation.
on the north elevation.
It's
Oh,
probably below
Yeah,
ground.
that's fine.
These are all, yeah, that's fine, here.
The existing windows on that part of the house are all vinyl?
They're all
Yeah.
Yeah,
except
so-
for those front 2.
Yeah, no, the thing about the front is that it's the front of the landmark home.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to, yeah.
Okay.
So the basement is a non-thing.
And where did we land on the front with the roof? Like, I don't love it, but.
Can I
I
point
think
out
it's
one
fine.
other thing?
Yeah.
Sadly, we left it out of this drawing, but we were planning to match that top frieze and the corner board on our addition too, so it's gonna give it a little bit more definition to tie into that front.
Will, is there a, some kind of detail that goes across the facade between the windows? Between the two
porch.
That's
That's the front porch, yeah.
That's
You're talking about this
the
band
roof of the
here.
front of the porch.
Is that what you're-
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
It just looks, oh, you know what? That's
Graphically,
your
you're-
dimension.
If you go to the.
That's the
It's a
dimension.
dashed line.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
That, it's because it's the annotation on the drawing. I'm like, what is that?
Oh, you're talking about the.
Can you, it's, no, the
It's for the
other-
dimension string. See
You
the dotted line under the
dimensioned
window.
it right next to where the porch,
It's where it says 3 feet.
Oh, the line there, here.
yeah.
Okay.
No,
yeah.
no, on the other one.
Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Anyway, it's, I couldn't figure out what that is. It's just, it's the annotation, so that's fine.
Does someone have their all, what we do, want to make, are we ready to make a motion or?
I just want to circle
Or
back
you
the
want to?
roof on the front, thoughts. Like I said, I'm not loving it, but I just wanted to hear what other people thought of the addition.
The way that the eave lands a little higher.
I don't know, I just, in general, it looks a bit.
I think because of the geometry of how it attaches to the roof, and it would make the whole interior space a lot lower than it does in the rest of the house, because the rest of the house has a steeper pitch, and because it's farther back up higher.
I think the proportions will look a lot different with the smaller windows. I'm gonna feel comfortable with it.
I think that's what you'll focus on.
So I would like to make a motion to approve 26-002, 1505 Ashland Avenue with the following conditions: to include the exterior trim that you mentioned, that the windows facing the west be aluminum or fiberglass clad with simulated divided lights that are as close as possible to the original windows, that the window in the dining room be the same, as close as possible to the existing west facade windows, and that the casement on the second floor, that the window on the second floor be a casement or fixed window with a single vertical divided light.
I second that.
Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously.
Yay.
Congratulations.
Thanks for staying all night.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Next new item under new business is the 2026 officer elections. Does someone want to make a motion to approve this proposed slate?
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed slate.
I second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next is approval of the meeting minutes. I brought up something, there was a very minor edit that one, the titles alternated between committee member and commission member, but apparently that's a software thing, so that can be corrected.
Yeah, I don't know. They auto-populate that. I don't know how it works. Someone who's not me has to fix it.
But other than that, I don't think there are any other edits, so we can then consider those approved. And at 10:36, we can adjourn our meeting.
Wow.
Wow.